Yo, what it do, Fortnite fam? Welcome back to the Fortnite Champion Series. We've missed you guys so much, and now we're back to do it all over again. Anytime we're apart, I feel like my heart is less full, but now that we're together, I can be one with all of you. It's great to be back, everybody. Welcome to Chapter 2, Season 8, Dubbed Cubed. We had to bring the boys back here in Europe. It's Reese, it's Levin, my friends. How you guys feeling going into the competition?
I am feeling much better after the way you just spoke. I mean, I didn't know how much of an emotional impact I had on you, Zeke, but
True.
I know how much of an emotional impact Fortnite and competitive Fortnite has on me. It gets me really going, right? And I'm looking forward to this season in particular because a lot of switch-ups, a lot of new dynamics to look out for, and I know it's not going to disappoint.
Yeah, exactly the same. You know, it always feels like too long of a break between, even though it was a relatively short break between the qualifiers right here up the FNCS last until here. It's too long. I want to be standing here. I want to be talking about Fortnite with my boys here too. Did I point the right way? No, of course I didn't. Every time.
There you go. The beauty of production. You love to see it, guys. It's great to be back. Now we're going to be jumping aboard the battle bus in just a little bit, but first we got to talk about a few housekeeping things before we can do so. For all you new faces out there, welcome to the broadcast. It is fantastic to have you be here. We're going to be watching some crazy games, some action here in Europe, and over the next few weeks, we'll be watching more games. So first, let's talk about how this is going to go. We're going to start things in Europe. Later on in the day, we're going to move over to NA East and then end the day in NA West. Here is a look at your overall tournament format. So typically, we're used to a little bit of a longer FNCS, 3 qualifier rounds, a semifinal rounds, and then a final round. But don't worry about that. This is going to be very quick, very smooth, right, Levin? We're going into qualifier number 1.
Yeah, you know, sometimes it's good to sort of get the chips out of the way and get to the burger. You know what I mean?
Get right to it.
You know, I don't have a problem with that, right? We have 2 qualifying weeks instead of the regular 3, right? Of course, as normal, in qualifying weeks, there are 4 rounds. Players had to compete through all 3 rounds to get to round 4. The top 33 teams from round 3 are the ones competing today, and they're all competing for top 5, right? If you get top 5, you make it into the finals. You go straight through, skip the semifinals, none of that. But look, if you don't get top 5, there is still something to compete for, right? The top 66 teams with the most series points after qualifier 1 and 2 will advance to the semifinals. So you really want to have a good performance. You want to get to round 4 and you want to really have a good performance so you can solidify yourself in that top 66 on the series point leaderboard.
Yeah, but let's be real. Today, what matters the most is the teams that get the top 5. And to get the top 5, they got to get points somehow. And this is exactly how right here. This is the format for each individual match that we've got. Once teams get to the top 24, they'll gain 5 points. And then once they get to 17th, all the way up to the first, they'll cumulatively gain more and more points. So there's 30 placement points up to grab for teams who pick up a victory royale. And at the bottom there, you can also see that elimination is worth 2 points. So nice balance between teams who are going to consistently kind of get up to that top 5 repeatedly in multiple games. And then also pop off with a bunch of eliminations. 5-6 average per game is probably going to cut you straight up into the top 5.
That's right. And of course, there is prize money on the line. But just as a reminder, this is for finals. So 2 weeks from today, we'll be diving knee deep into finals. There will be breaking down the specific prizing, what each placement will walk away with. That's, once again, future stuff. Don't even worry about that for right now. All you got to worry about are those 7 regions you just saw. We kind of touched on them. We'll dive deeper into 2 of these, specifically Asia will be the one we start things off. We've got some highlights for you. The top 3 trios that were performing very well out of qualifier 1. Here's a few of their gameplay, and we're going to let Reese and Levin talk about this trio.
Yeah, and you know, firstly, right, this is the 3rd place. Rain, Macy, and Regis, they ended up being relatively consistent. Actually, the 2nd highest average eliminations of all of the teams so far, having 7.17. So 7 over 7 average eliminations per game was incredibly impressive. And like, they had 2 games where they were in double digits, so 15 and a 12. And they managed actually not to win a single game either. So they had all these huge elimination pop-offs, didn't manage to get many victory royales, but just kept getting into those top echelons, like I mentioned, with a ton of elims. That's obviously earned them a qualification slot, which we've got to be watching out for here today.
Yeah, and a team that was able to get a victory royale, right? The team right here on our screens, Penis Trio. Look, these guys very much were able to get a victory royale, like I said, but they were very consistent, right? Top 10 in every single game they played. And this is the kind of stuff I'm looking out for, right? When I'm looking for teams who are going to be a threat in the finals. Of course, these guys were able to qualify through in that first week, and I think that's what everybody wants. But more importantly, right, when you look at this top 5, as always, what you get is a team who just barely misses out, don't they, Reese? Right? A team who just is 1 point off, it seems. And in this case, it was our 6th place team, King, Raru, and Yusi. I'm always bad with the names. Apologies for the trio watching.
You nailed it. You nailed it.
I did on this occasion, but if you're watching next week, I probably will mess it up. 1 point away, it seems, Reese. How heartbreaking.
Yeah, it's definitely heartbreaking, absolutely, for them. But honestly, like, they literally just lost out in the final game. They came 16th when Atom's team, the team above them, ended up in 24th. So it's like they had the opportunity to close the gap, but they just weren't able to do it by that one single point. And to be honest, they actually needed 2 points. Now you look at it because they got less eliminations, but still 2 single points. They had the opportunity to, but it was really tough to see them kind of just essentially choke it out in the last game after performing so well in the previous 5.
Yeah. Unfortunate stuff there, but there's always qualifier week 2. Another region which concluded its qualifier 1, though, OCE. We'll take a look at some of the top teams from that region. Very impressive stuff, as always, of OCE. Well, I say that, right? And I think I look at a lot of the teams here. A lot of the teams did seem to switch up. A similar trend we're seeing to, all regions, seemingly. But in this case here, CO's trio, these guys were able to solidify that 3rd place spot. They didn't get the victory out, Reese, but they were incredibly consistent, and that enough was going to be what puts them through in the top 5, and they're going to be competing in the finals.
Yeah, exactly. And honestly, for OCE, it was interesting because there's a lot of teams that started super strong. Ronin's team being an example of them. They were so good in the first 3 games. So they're actually, at that time, were beaten out by Jinx team still. And it seemed like they were a shoo-in for coming 1st or 2nd. Obviously, they ended up coming 2nd, but it was a really dicey one towards the end because they ended up going down early in that 4th game, clutched up massive in game 5, and then again went down early in game number 6. So a lot of these teams we're watching right now actually aren't having the best last game, but have done so well in the first half to be able to keep themselves in it and make that top 5 qualification.
Yeah, and you can see Sora's trio here was the 1st place team. They broke 200 points. 210 points is what they were able to go. Oh no, it seems got a bit of a technical difficulty there, but you don't got to worry about that, right? Because as you can see now, 210 points was what it was for them to get that 1st place slot. And a team that I'm actually, or 2 teams I'm actually really interested in, right? Jinx, Daneth, and Worthy. Of course, Jinx and Worthy last season and in previous seasons this year were playing with Alec. Alec's new trio, though, was actually able to auto-qualify as well in 5th, 1 spot below. So this is 2 teams who, once played with each other, now going to be competing against each other in the final.
Yeah, and for Jinx's team, they were the ones that was off to the hottest start, right? They had a 5th, a 9th, and then 2 victory royales in game 3 and 4, respectively. So they were looking so strong. They were in that 1st place, and then in those last 2 games, kind of choked out a little bit, 21st and a 24th. So from them, they're looking super strong if they can fix those kind of late, early game issues that they had when they popped down in those last 2 games, potentially Storm Surge issues in those last 2. And for the teams that obviously they've split, it seems to have worked out well for both of them because Jinx and Worthy are 4th, and Alex is 5th, and they've both teams have managed to qualify themselves through the finals in the 1st qualifier, so not bad at all.
You don't always get that best case scenario, do you? Right?
No.
And even if you are, if you have a teammate who you've left, right, you do sort of think in the back of your mind, I hope he doesn't qualify, right? Like, you are just thinking, I hope I do better than him. But both these teams will be competing against each other, and that's what it's all about at the end of the day.
That's right, guys. We have to continue this kind of general talk of team splitting up because one of the things we're seeing in Chapter 2, Season 8 is a lot of trios that we've seen, long-time trios that have competed together for seasons now, are changing things up. Some cases it's just dropping a single player and bringing in someone new. In some cases, bringing in 2 completely different players that you're trying to work with. Something very interesting coming into today's competition. Only 7 trios are the same, right? That have been here and have been with us a season before and are still holding strong. But this is a brand new territory, I feel like, Levin. A bunch of brand new, like Benji, Fishy, Savage, and Dredo. What?
Yeah, this is a crazy trio. And look, I know Reese will have plenty to say about these guys. I'm happy to see Benji finally in this situation, right? It only took Reese and I making countless YouTube videos, constantly talking about it on stream for Benji to finally put himself in a winning situation, playing alongside Savage and Dry. I'm super excited to see how they do.
Yeah, I now realize that we have both indeed made those same videos, which makes me laugh now, but it is. And what he means by that is the fact that Benji Fishy's now in a role that he can frag efficiently. Like, Benji Fishy's main main skill set is the fact that he's an extremely mechanical player, that he can pick up tons of eliminations. And in previous trios, he wasn't in a position to do that. He was either tarping, he was sitting in the middle of the tarp, fragging, and it was always some kind of awkward situation for him. Now, with Andrea tarping, Mr. Savage IGLing, him in the middle of the tarp, that just leaves Benji to sit at the back of the tarp and do exactly what he does best. Click on people's heads, pick up a lot of eliminations at the same time, shoot them in the head. Simple stuff, and it's some of the secrets to their success so far.
Yeah, and look, I'm looking forward to seeing these guys, a full British trio, you know, UK on top and all that nonsense,
Absolutely.
right? You know,
Absolutely.
I'm happy to see these guys did so well in round 3, and I'm looking forward to seeing how they do today, because this is a trio where in past seasons, right, each of these individual players hasn't actually done that well, right, of late. You look at Michael and Verix last season, I don't think they even made it to the semi-finals of an FNCS, and so I was really looking forward to seeing how they bounce back, and now they're here competing in a round 4.
Yeah, it's going to be super interesting for them and for Noah, Vadil, and Janice. They've got a little bit of a difficult task ahead of them today. This team looks super strong. They're, they've switched up a ton in terms of the actual team members, but they're being contested by Mitro's team in their drop spot Believers Beach. They're a team that you would have thought has alphaed up Believers Beach as a drop spot now season after season. But if any one team is going to be a team to land on them a drop spot, it's going to be a team of Mitro. Let's be real. Season after season after season, we see successful fighting off Spawn from them. Last season in particular, Slurpy Swamp, they were contesting Kiriachi's team, who I thought a lot of us at the time was like, Kiriachi's going to wipe them off Spawn. This will be easy. They're a Slurpy team through and through for season on season, and it was a clean wipe for Mitro's team. I think it was 5-1 off Spawn there. So, I think a lot of people looking at this fight, this engagement in Believers Beach are going to go, you know what? I'm sure No Release team will win. I would not be so sure off Spawn.
So we're gonna have to wait and find out.
Yeah, dude. There's so many awesome things. Guys, let's take a look at our 33 trios competing today. A super fun fact is actually 1/3 or 37 of the players that competed in last season's finals are competing in today's qualifier number 1. That is an insane stat to me. So basically we're already going to be watching finals relevant gameplay, which is, you love to see it.
Yeah, we have some of the highest level of competition competing in the lobby today. Of course, we have some of the names you've already discussed, but you look at this page alone and you have so many teams who are competitors and who are very much capable of winning. Some names are very much interesting me, the likes of Astroki, CR, and Aqua back out of retirement, come into play today, and very much come in to do only one thing, right? To compete for high ground and win games.
Yeah, he saw that Grand Royale prize pool and was like, I'm coming out of retirement. We're back, baby. It's time to do it. A lot of other teams have got in here that have looked super good so far. Kamisei, Teak, looking very strong today. Hen, Refsguard, Trulex. Another team has been really, really good in the preseason as well. And Candy, along with Kraid and Clinbury, a team who really impressed me when I was watching through some of their games yesterday. Candy streamed the entire thing. Looked very, very good in round 3. I hope they can replicate that today in round number 4. If we check over to the next page, see the next list of teams that have qualified through as well. This is where we see Mitro's team alongside Iron and Milan here. Again, some interesting fights we're going to see from these guys, Rax, Hutty, and Mini. Always commenting on me that I'm not predicting Hutty's team. Look, I hope you guys do well, but Hutty quickscoped me accidentally in a No Rayleigh solo custom, so I'm never predicted him in the top 10, unfortunately. But I support you boys. Let's go. Let's see it.
Personal bias from
personal bias.
Absolutely shocking stuff. Let's take a look at that last page though, because if anything, you could argue this last page could be the first, because you have so many talented trios on this page, the likes of Queasy and Nassan Thomas, who did spectacularly in previous competitions, and Alex Forzia and Xweez, another trio who is very dominant last season and very much will look to replicate that this time round. I'm really excited for all these teams, right? Looking to see how they come out of the gates. It's an opportunity to solidify yourself as one of the top trios, and there's a lot of teams here who will definitely be able to do that.
Yeah, I think the biggest one that a lot of people will talk about, Andlex, 4ZR, and Xweez looking to land in Misty Meadows so far. These guys have looked on fire so far the entire season. It's only been a short season so far, but anytime I'm on a leaderboard, right, I'm checking in the Trio Cash Cup so far or any of the previous rounds of this qualifier, I hit F5, I just keep seeing Andlex, 4ZR, Xweez in that top side of it. They are always there. Now, in terms of the round 3, they ended with a little bit of a rusty finish, definitely, but towards the earlier start of that, they were looking so strong. So I'm thinking today this could be definitely a bit of Andlex season for qualifier 1.
We'll have to see. Guys, we got to do my favorite part of the broadcast. It's time to draw on the map. So Chapter 2 Season 8 has not really brought us changes in the actual POIs, right? Mostly still the same, but we are seeing is changes to the map itself. These brand new crash sites kind of being displayed around the island, and they're offering up some new kind of options for these kind of areas in between these major POIs. Obviously, we love to talk about Believer Beach, Boney Burbs, and Holly Head, just right, this triangle of doom, if you will. You drop a crash site in there, and now we're talking about some craziness. Now, we will come back to this. Oh, thank you so much, Reese.
I got you. I got the production quality. Don't worry.
I appreciate that. I appreciate that. Let's actually, I want to shift your attention down to Misty Meadows, Lazy Lake, and Caddy Corner. This crash site, I feel like, is going to provide a ton of utility for some of the trios landing in Misty Meadows. So, Reese, talk to me about this spot in particular.
Yeah, so I kind of gave you a little hint of it. Andalex's team is landing in Misty Meadows, fully uncontested. With the crash sites now landing there, there's obviously tons more mobility options, but there's also roughly another 20 chests there. So for Andalex's team alone, they have 51 chests to themselves, fruit boxes, tons of rotation already. It looks strong for them. For Catty Corner team, Queasy's team, they're already in Catty Corner, which is great. And Lazy Lake's team has scrams, which is really difficult for a lot of these teams. And I want to show you exactly why. If they pull a zone that's favorable, you'd think, to them, there's not that many positions that they can all claim, right? So if Catty Corner team, Scrams team ends up going on to say this hill down here, well, there's no fights they can third party in Lazy Lake. No one's really going to be doing much in Misty Meadows either, because remember, we've seen his Andalex's teams, there's a solo, and most of the time, a lot of the congestion will go towards the hills here. So despite the fact that a lot of these teams are in a good spot, uncontested with tons of loot, they may struggle with the amount of teams that end up rotating through them when it comes to Storm Surge earlier on.
Yeah, I could very much see that being a problem with these top teams being uncontested. Speaking of another team that is, you know, a top team that's uncontested, one of my favorite teams. You know, I'm always going to find a way to sneak Tayson's name in here somehow, but Tayson this season is obviously going to be playing with Chapix and Reason, and Chapix, who's very familiar with Craggy Cliffs, has chosen that it's going to be time to disengage from Boney Burbs, right? They weren't landing Craggy Cliffs prior to this round, but they didn't want to contest Aqua, rightfully so, right? It's a bit of a wise dodge if you ask me, but they are very much a team that is going to do well out of Craggy because Chapix has plenty of experience here. They have Storm Surge opportunities to Stronghold. They have Storm Surge opportunities to their east over on this mountain, right? The Pristine Point. So they very much should be set up to do well, right? In comparison to some of the teams down in South where they have uncontested spot, good loot, and Storm Surge opportunities. Very much an opportunity and a setup for these guys to do well.
You know, really quickly, we like to talk about contested versus uncontested a lot, right? Craggy being uncontested. Let's talk about a place that is triple contested. It's Dirty Docks, Reese.
Yeah, I mean, so far it seems triple contested. We don't know because you always, you know, you get the drop maps from the lovely people in the community right now, so we can see exactly what's going on. But you're not entirely sure if that's going to end up what happens. So right now, what it seems like is Peach's team, Astro's team, and Lazen's team are all landing Dirty Docks. So we've got a triple contested. Usually what happens is one of these teams will land to the south and they'll land in that new crash site area. They will use the kind of shadow stones that are there alongside the slipstream so they can fly up into the sky, third party the fight. So in terms of the actual fight that's going to happen in Dirty Docks, it'll be a mess, right? Just let it know. If 3 teams there, it's going to be a mess. But what's most important about this is the fact that teams can capitalize on this. I already mentioned C2S8 in the Cami split, fully uncon, with a ton of loot, high ground. I would be very, very surprised if they didn't rotate up onto the hill on this west side of Dirty Docks, just sitting third party, shot after shot. Easy Storm Surge strategy for them. And also there's, just to add on, another contested drop spot in Corny Complex. So for C2S8, they're looking really good. Another team I would expect to do something similar would be Benji's team up in Steamy Stacks, to rotate down to the exact same spot and have a really easy Storm Surge strategy for them all the way through.
Yeah, and that was actually a lesson, right? That that team learned last season without Benji, right? Mr. Savage and Dretta, ref scarred last season in the FNCS finals, did that exactly, right? Where they rotated down south and it did seem to help them out in dealing with Surge. As you can see here, though, when it comes to the statistics, they've only played 4 events as a trio, but they have looked phenomenal thus far, Reese.
They have indeed. And I think one of the most important things to note there is best finals finish second. You know, for Savage and also for Benji, you know, we're obviously going to add Andrea in here too for the same conversation. So many people are saying the curse of second place for these guys, that they can't win a tournament when it's a finals set lobby. So, you know, for them, their finals finish is second so far. So this season, we're hyped them up so far. They're looking good. They did manage to win the DreamHack Duos earlier in the week. So obviously that was without Andrea, because it was a Duos event at the same time. So they are looking absolutely fantastic coming into this season so far. Uncontested and Steamy Stacks. Look, they have everything set up for them at this point, it would seem.
Yeah, and it's funny, right? Because we talked there about all the stuff going on at Dirty Dogs. If this was a couple seasons ago, there'd be none of this nonsense at Dirty Dogs, right? You would have had the big Thomas and Nass and Flick. They would have been there to deal with it. But that tree has been broken up and Nass and Thomas aren't landing at Dirty anymore. Flick's not here. Didn't make it to round 4. And so look what happens is there's a power vacuum, as Shio Age, I would say, right? And so lots of teams looking to find opportunities there. And it's added a new dynamic for us and for you watching at home, which hopefully will spice things up around the map.
And just a quick note, I think, you're saying that obviously previous seasons, Dirty Dogs would have been alpha, as the cool kids like to say, as the team has fully put their mark on it. You don't want to drop and land on it. The only POI, when I'm looking at this drop map that's been alpha'd so far, is Boney Burbs by Aqua's team. And Aqua, they just formed last minute before this tournament. So you got to says a lot about the presence of Aqua, Ciara, and Fistroki. The fact that they can just, obviously for Aqua himself, come out of retirement, form a trio last minute, get an uncontested drop spot to himself, and potentially even hit a top 5.
You don't get put in GOAT conversations if you're not a serious player, and that's what Aqua is, right? Look who disengaged: Tayson, Chapix, and Reason. 3 players who individually at any given moment could be considered the best in the world decided, you know what, I'm not trying to fight with Aqua, and big man, you can have it. We'll go somewhere else in it. But it's absolute madness in it, because these 3 are so incredible, and they looked at it and they went, actually, we're pretty better off not contesting with Aqua, Ciara, and for stroking. And with that, right, Aqua's brilliant, but who he's choose to pick around him, phenomenal players as well, and for Strokey and Ciara, and so they've become an incredibly strong trio. I'm really happy to see them competing today, and I'm sure they're going to do incredibly well. They'll push to get top 5, because Aqua will think, I just want to do one qualifier. I don't want to do another one, right? So let's just do it now and move on later.
Yeah, absolutely. We have about 4 minutes before we jump on the battle bus. So really quickly, let's talk predictions. Remember, we're looking for top 5, not just your top 3 for qualifier number 1 and 2. So Levin started us off. He's going with Tayson, Chapix, and Reason. Why is this, Levin?
Was there any doubt I was going to pick these guys?
No, of course not.
I don't know, guys. I look at it and I go, they have a spot uncontested, a spot that Chapix, is very familiar with. They have 3 incredible individual players, like I said before. At any given moment, they're one of the few teams I think actually has this in the region, where at any given moment you could argue one of these 3 is the best player in the world, right? Not many trios, even the top trios, can say that. And they have storm surge opportunities aplenty, right? These guys have everything it takes to do incredibly well, and I expect them to win, but if not, top 5, to me, guaranteed today.
I think actually, if you're right, like for Tayson, Chapix, and Reason, if they don't get top 5, I think that's going to be really surprising. Like, given all the opportunities are there with the contested spots around them, given they know the drop spot, Craggy Cliffs, like they're comfortable, I would be surprised, but you never know. First week of FNCS, strange things happen sometime. My prediction, Benji, Fishy, Savage, and Drea, look, we've talked about them a lot today. Anytime I'm gonna give a specific example. No, I'm gonna say anytime. Last week, made some predictions for Duo DreamHack, left out Benji and Savage. People coming onto my tweet going, oh, how dare you not predict them after the tournament's over and they win? So you know what? I'm coming back. I'm predicting them today. Not only for that, I think they also have really good potential to win at the same time, but I'm proving my haters wrong.
Yeah, Reese is just scared to get absolute pelters from the Benji fans. Somebody who will not be getting pelters, though, is Shio Asia, right? Because Shio's gone with Queasy, Nass, and Thomas. Shio and I actually casted a DreamHack event last week, and these guys won, and they were formidable, right? Like, they really did come out and impress, and I think, they've been rejuvenated, and Nass and Thomas, we've seen how dominant they've been in the past. Queasy obviously is now an FNCS champion in his own right. Definitely a team to watch out for, and a team who, similar to some of the other teams on this list, should expect to get top 5 this week.
Yeah, I think they should. And Sundown's gone with a very solid pick, Badil, Janice, and Noah. For me, they have such a huge potential. Obviously, I talked earlier a little bit about the Believers Beach issues for them in terms of being contested by Mitro's team, but we all know, I think I say this every single time we see a team that has Vadil and Noah, any composition of this team, that they have pop-off potential. It's like you see they go in 11th one game, 20th one, and then it's like 20 eliminations, victory royale. It's the same thing. It's like the ups and downs. So for them being contested off spawn, it could hinder them a little bit in those games if they end up losing them. If they end up losing a lot, obviously that could go down hugely. But I still think they can absolutely capitalize, and I put them in the top 10 for myself in my own predictions.
Levin, I was watching your face as he was saying this. Do you disagree?
It's not about disagreeing sometimes, Zeke. Sometimes it's about, you know, the perspective. And I look at it and I do worry just because I know Mitro off spawn is, you know, no easy player to take on. But Reese is very right in what he's saying. The pop-up potential is mad because these guys could have, you know, half their games where they do just get wrecked off spawn. But in the 3 games that they do get, they have the potential to just drop like a mad game and qualify just off that one game alone, right? So they definitely have, you know, a bit of an ebb and flow in how you can expect them to perform. I think it's a solid pick because going into the season, regardless of this individual week, they are definitely one of the top teams in the land.
Yeah, and there's not a lot of teams that'll fit that pop-off potential group. Like, I do think Benji's team is absolutely one of them. If you've seen through some of the other qualifiers, the game they played, big elimination games. You know, you look at some of the other teams in there, you know, when I'm looking at potentially like Queasy's team right now, I think they're going to be a team that relies a lot more on just being consistent throughout each individual match. I'm not saying they can't drop big games, but, you know, if you're going to put a team up against each other, who's going to drop more double-digit elimination games? You're going to put it on Noah's team, potentially over Queasy's team. So it does fill me with a bit of confidence for Noah's team, 100%.
Guys, I love the breakdown, but as you heard, the battle bus has beep beep, which means we are getting ready to go into our games. So for now, let's give a big warm welcome to Sundown as Sancho S just had a kid. Congratulations, Sancho. Welcome to the world, Sancho Jr. And it's great to be your godfather. Don't tell Sancho. So you're up, as always. Welcome back, Shy Wager, and give a warm welcome to Sundown. Friends, over to you.
Thank you so much, Zeke, 11, and Reese. And what's up, Fortnite fam? It is so good to be back hopping across the pond. It's been a while, but we're back, baby. Shy Wager, how you doing today, man?
I'm doing amazing. I got the cast with the encyclopedia of Fortnite, who's been absolutely demolishing it on NA West and just everywhere cross-regionally, Sundown. It's been a while. We're about to hit it. Let's go, game number 1.
Oh, and I cannot wait to get into it. Like I said, it has been a while. Used to cover the EU region back in the day. Had a mix-up of it. But speaking of a mix-up, the trios, honestly, I was trying to do my research, go through, do all the coverage, and then I was like, nope, I'm just going to wait till day of. Because as we know, doesn't matter the region. Everyone seems to toss it up in the air. But this is one of the fights we're interested in. Going in my prediction right away on the other side of it. See no Riley, Vidil, and Genis right up against Mitro, Milan, and Ariane Lee trying to push through right away. You can also see Seti getting a knock almost instantly in the feed there, Shio.
Yeah, things are feisty and hot off the drop. There's so many different options, but it seems like teams are really going for these head-to-head fights right now on top of the hotel. Shots are being fired, but nothing's really committing. Mitro actually takes on Vidil. Lots of firepower gone and a full finish there too. You see Noah Riley trying to build all the way up, but as soon as that knock comes through, he has to rethink it.
Yeah, but Janice and Vidil were able to pick up 2 on their end as well. So coming out even in the trade, and you can already see Noah Riley just extending down to the other side of the beach, immediately trying to take as much real estate, get the reboot up, put that van just that much farther away, make it a 3v1. And this is part of the reason I took the prediction. Yes, the contestation is risky. Yes, Mitro wants some of the best fighters in Europe when it comes off the spawn. But I mean, on the flip side of that, you have 3 of the best players in the world fighting them. And if they're able to take those fights quickly, those points rack up.
Yeah, that's one of the biggest strats as well in the earlier seasons in the year. They struggled moving and getting surge. Sometimes when they were contested, I felt happier for them. That's where they got their damage, but we'll see how that fight finishes. Right now, Deox and his entire trio is fighting over here right beside Corny, looking at exactly what Typo's doing too. This fight, I mean, I've seen it go down so many different ways. It's basically no mats on both sides. The person that moves first usually gets shot, and then things just end in an instant. Gas cans are also involved. It's getting explosive. Already one teammate down, 2. Deox has no room for mistakes.
Yeah, this is a tough fight to take on the interior because, again, you're very limited on the amount of resources, particularly mats. Like, yes, you get a shotgun, you get a little bit of an SMG, so you're going to feel good if you can get box to box, but dealing with 2 builds, now 1 build only has 1 cover option. You see that he uses it, so now absolutely nothing. Going to be hopping force an 83 tag right away, 92. Brilliant shot from Deoxy. That's the knock. Going to get the full confirm onto Cosmo to now make it a 2-on-2. Kenny link back up with his teammate, able to do it as Typo was pushed back down, and now this fight looks much more even, and as I say that, just takes an absolute monstrous shot for the entirety of his shield.
That's just rough. Back-to-back trades of upwards of 100 damage. Yoxo going for another angle. Oh my god, the claiming is amazing, but at the same time does not land the shot and actually gets slapped in the face backwards. This teammate now also no shields whatsoever. They have to try to regain this height. The issue is no materials. Every single build has to be an all-in, and Yoxo might have won 1. Cannot go for 2 times in a row. Once again, has to just drop down, go for the bandages, but the teammates down below will hear that on the other team. KPI has to stay up and make sure that he covers the Ox as he heals up right now, but this is just looking absolutely shambles.
Yeah, the Spanish trio really being pushed to the absolute brink here. Good job to bring it back to even, but then immediately losing their advantage right after the 2-on-2 was kind of reset. You can see one trio was finally knocked down. 3 trios have been sent back to the lobby as Gez gets cleaned up there. And this should be one of our last early game fights being cleaned out here, so we're going to stick with it. As you see the other team saying, nope, we're not going to stick with it. They hop in the car and skirt on out of there.
That's really smart too. They kind of deny all the loot on that side. A different perspective on the map as well. One of a legendary legacy status and uncontested. It's Benji and Dread Savage who had the cleanest round 3 I've seen across a lot of different regions. And right now they're rolling in completely set up for the end game.
Yeah, and you can see right there the Chili Chug Splash is being added in. It's one of the strongest consumables you can end up utilizing as spot for. Not only do you get those AoE heals coming through that player's value so much in the kind of any form of team game mode, they just end up rising in efficiency. But then you get the bonus move speed, which any form of rotation, when you get into those pack moving circles, is incredibly valuable. However, dropping this Loot Llama is not going to yield what you would typically see in previous seasons.
Not at all. I'm hearing a reboot popping right now, so I'm wondering where that's happening because all our POVs have people locked in for the moment, full team. So there is definitely a fight going down. Looks like it might be at Corny Crops. I see a lot of action there between multiple arrows. Thomas HD, Queasy, and Nas as well are kind of the same position at Benji, but on the south side of the map. This definitely is the fight at Corny that we are hearing. It'd be dope to see what's going down there. Looks like, yes, the Oxford's Typo. Typo actually goes down and is full finished, and that's a full wrap-up. So they got the reboots. Now the whole fight breaking down and control of Corny. Meanwhile, all these uncontested teams, Sundown, they've left their POIs. They're ready to just get to the next portion of the game, and that's making sure they're on top of Surge.
Yeah, and one thing that's changed a little bit of the map, and they talked about it in the pre-show, the analysts going through, the addition of the crash sites means there's been more loot on the map as a whole. The crash sites added a significant amount of floor loot chests, just things you're able to get to, as well as the innate rotation coming through on those side streams, the side winders, the slip streams, whatever you want to call them, going through. They help you move around the map, which means the players end up loving it. But somebody who's in a tough situation right now, Lazen, on one of the kind of outside fishing routes after Erica and Blackie have been picked up, and you can assume just Storm Surge is going to be the issue unless he's able to circle around to Dirty and potentially get a cheeky reboot.
I mean, you could add 300 chests on the map, but if you're contesting 2 different teams at your POI, Eliason got one of the short sticks this game. And yeah, he has a big swim to go with, kind of ran away from Dirty overall, now going all the way back and actually moving on the north side all the way to Steamy. I'm not sure where he's going, but I hope he finds a place to call home.
So I used to love that route. Unfortunately, the addition of the crash site means people have actually started landing there in solos. When it was just the boathouse before, you could land on that boathouse and just quickly farm up the rock, all of those metal rails, and then the rock on the next beach, and then end up getting wood along the way. And you'd be max mats in under like 2.5 minutes. Plus the fishing route and the chest on the side were incredibly valuable. And now that you can end up getting those shadow floppers for that additional phase effect and the rotation coming through, fish have just become that much more valuable this season. However, I cannot fight people worth absolutely anything. So as soon as people realize, I'm like, hey, this spot's halfway decent, I'm like, well, I can't go there anymore.
Yeah, I think season 3, 4, when people started to swim a lot more, they kind of discovered that the Middle East heal strat, the EMAGG boating as well, kind of put a little bit of exposure on the map, but the crash sites will definitely entice anyone to roll in. Lots of metal there available too, but Reason, Taste, and Chat basically keep it classic, taking control of the bridge, getting their mats up. I mean, this is also a powerhouse squad coming in. From what we saw in the Cash Cup Extra, or just in general when this team is moving in, it sometimes feels like they're on different pages when it comes to endgame because they are a little bit of a newer team combining together, but the firepower they have is amazing.
And Falcon, the Middle East Orc, just trying to come into the European scene, getting a little bit involved in picking up some of the top players to represent on the side here. And you can see Tayson and Chapix doing a fantastic job in that regard. I mean, the results have spoke for themselves, but the question is, what can they do with the newly formed combination going across the board? I mean, that's really what today is about. Like, we've seen some of the Cash Cups, we've seen a bunch of different things, but this is the first opportunity we were really going to see a lot of these new trios pushed to the absolute brink, Shio.
Yeah, and it's in very new circumstances as well because the south side of the map on EU is usually the place where you have crazy contention. Everyone's kind of fighting for their spots. This time, when the POV we're watching right now, X-Squeeze and X4ZR, it's the first time where they're kind of fully free to operate through Misty. And, you know, they were talking about it on the desk as well, Levin and Reese with Zeke. You know, where is everyone on the South going to go for their surge tags? How they're going to get damaged? They're kind of in a pinball scenario. They're just pushing that bumper. They're pushing a POI randomly or just trying to explore the map and seeing if they can get those bonus points, seeing if they can compound their damage into more damage. And sometimes you miss the bumper shot, that pinball goes straight down into the gutter. Looks like for Analyx, so they're fine right now. Reason, Tayson, and Chapix, they're activated. They're going on a steady, and oh no, Reason takes a big shot as he tries to back off from the builds.
Yeah, and this is going to be tough. Luckily, right on the other side, they do have those innate cubes, which it looks like they'll be able to hop in. Nope, instead, just going to opt to grab the car and get out of dodge. Didn't seem like there was enough for the full trio to pick them up. So instead, sticking together, which is something you see a lot of trios opt to do, particularly if you're uncontested. And you're going to probably have to see a lot of trios opt more into this strategy because, again, we talked about the crash sites, just adding an influx of loot on the map without really taking away anything, only really Slurpee towards the end of the past season, turning over towards Sludgy, was any form of reduction in loot. Otherwise, it's only kind of been a net gain, which means these trios spread out just a little bit more. As you've noticed since that last fight we covered with KPI and the Spanish trios going over and picking up that full elim, not a single player has been eliminated. We're still at this fortune. Right after I say that, Scram actually get a knock over onto Trulex. That's Hen's new trio. Wondering if we can pick up that fight as Fonada is able to pick up the full confirm on that side. It looks like we see Woodsy, Peach, and Waffler just taking a peek over at it going in the distance.
That's a fight that is breaking out in front of us, so we can take a look at it from very different perspectives, from a team looking for the outside in. Battles down below, also just waiting to pounce up if possible, but right now in the fray is Scram, is Hellfire, and Flow is still rolling in. Another knock comes in. Last player is held up right now. This is going to be tough, but there was a trade, so it will be a 2v1 possibility of a comeback here. Now every team wants to get involved. Everyone right now on this side of the map is just looking for free damage, looking for that third-party opportunity. Misty Meadows is there for the reboot in case anything goes bad right now, but I feel like a player's already on that bridge with that strat ready to go.
Yeah, and you can see the disengage trying to come out immediately. Scram, though, taking a ton of damage. And the one thing on the opposite side of it, they know it's Hen. And you'd have to think if it was a less capable player, they might have pushed that a little bit harder. But knowing they have the opportunity to disengage and knowing they don't have to take the fight against Hen, who in one of those box-to-box situations might be one of the best in EU to flip a 1v2. We've seen what he can do at an individual levels in clutch mid-game and end-game situations. Instead, disengage, get the reboot, back up to a full trio, play for the end game. I love that call.
And it's also really good that it's in Misty, right? There's only one team there that has to loot 50 chests and leave at the same time. So there's probably so much left over to get Hell back into the game, get him big kitted up, and then moving onwards. Past that, everyone coming in from the north side, which has had the most fights and the most trouble rolling in. It's back to Zest and Hydra, one of the trios that have stayed together, one of the 7 today. And they're up against Masso, Applefy, and Quinton. I don't think either of these teams ever go for fights like this, but they will be going back and forth with the shots.
Well, in the Loot Boy trio, they don't have an option. They were 175 below Surge, 157 below Surge, and that has to feel awful. You get an opportunity where a trio is running across an open hilltop to 3-2-1, and you get one singular rifle shot off. Like, that is poor execution on their side. They're going to be forced into a desperation fight here, and on the other side of it, you can see Chapstick's tasting a reason. I believe that was Lazen on the other side of the wall. Not 100% sure, so we might have been able to get the reboots and then pop in. It seems like that would be a little bit quick, but yet again, no trios have gone down. Just the 2 players from Hen's trio being dropped on the other side of it. Otherwise, no action, just a bunch of posturing. However, people are going to drop as Storm Surge is going to kick in here in just a second, Chow, and we're still at 84 players up.
Other side lies, and they get the whole team back up, and so many people now have to go down. This is a spot I usually see Reason in, but it's brand new in terms of a perspective for Tayson and Chapix to just be box to box, so close with people instead of on a mountain looking for those beams. I'm liking the difference. Tayson now is going for the pinch. Wooden builds. This is great. He's really going to push for it, but he's got his own on the backside. Oh no, has to back up. It's going to be a 2v2 now that Reason and Chapix have to win. We know that Laser Squad shouldn't have the biggest amount of loot or maybe even shotguns on all players, so it should be a very good advantage for Tayson, and they're also above Surge just barely by a little.
Yeah, and what players are going to be listening for right now are those shield cracks that come through from the Storm Surge. Don't forget, we will see the big purple lightning coming down from the sky, but the players do not. So instead, you're listening for shield cracks and the lightning to push through and just try and get some tags and then disengage and throw walls up. You can keep an eye on the feed in the top left. Players are going to be dropping like flies, going straight through rifle, picking up a full elim there. You can see Taste of Reason and Chapik pushing through, only getting one elim, but getting all of the refresh from that as Lizen and his trio does fall down. You can see Savage, Benji, and Andretta posturing right on the other side.
That might be a trap for them, though, because it is Chapix just above Surge by a little bit, 64, and that number is dwindling slowly. It does lock down to 70. Chapix understands now that they need to do more, and it feels like on the side of Wings, Fulton, and Karmi, all at 50 shield, they were also possibly getting struck by that lightning. I see the shields kind of away in their inventory, you know, the spicy splashes not all the way up to 6, one of the big pots down 2, so I think everyone on this map right now is having trouble getting damage down.
Yeah, I would love to actually check in with Fulton's trio at some point, because there's one of the trios that I don't think we spend enough time talking about. We talked about it on the top of the pre-show, how only 7 of the 33 teams playing today are trios that stuck together from the last season. Of those 7 teams, only 2 finished in the top 10. One everybody is familiar with, Seti, Cammy, Teak. Teak winning all the dream hacks, the Cammy split, and Seti being able to push through. But Fulton's trio is the other one. I know I saw Wings pick up at least 1 or 2 elims on the other side. Fulton just got 2 right there, and they're pushing through.
Yeah, one of the best things for Wings as well is that this is one of the players that, you know, definitely likes to take height in the best ways. It's so cool to see, but it's also very low key in the end game. So every time he's living, if there is anyone ever on height, his name is Wings for a reason, right? He flies all the way to the top.
Yeah, you can see he does have the shot of flappers in the inventory, and I did misspeak. He got a couple knocks there in the feed, but unable to get the confirmations. It seems like full net on the other side. They might have just been able to drag that fight out. But either way, 2 elims sitting pretty. Storm Surge has knocked us down to that 70 bar. We won't see it again until the 5th zone. So we had a couple of cycles to end up going through. Now we're going to end up taking a look at the lay of the land.
Okay, so the housing situation, the housing market in EU has changed up. These guys were so bent on apartment complexes, buildings, everyone on top of each other. But now, as Mirza goes down, Wings picks them up on the backside. Everyone has their own detached house, their own land, multi-acre properties that they get to have a free sightline with. There's so many options for so many teams. And now, as this 3rd zone closes in on the left side, you can see the congestion at the bridge. Here we are with it. This might be our first instance of, you know, trios boxed on top of each other. It is getting tough for people to move in, and people, you know, teammates left and right are still going down.
Yeah, and you can see that trio right being pushed off. And Hen, we talked about it, being able to make plays by himself, getting a knock in the feed onto Amplify. Last time we checked, he was a solo on a trio. Not positive if he was able to get the reboots there. We do see Wings in Fullnet and Co are based up right above Fesaroki, CRR, and Aqua right there. But instead, we're going to flip back over. Here's a fight on the side. You can see Quentin just after the knock going through spray after spray. Michael going to be the one who ends up picking that. Wadzi right on the other side, also being able to get some spray down. You can see this team's just right on the edge of the zone. That's what happens when the players are packed in. I mean, check the bottom right-hand corner shot. There's so many trios down here right now.
So many in this fight. It's going all the way to the brink as well. Another big knot from Woodsy. No damage taken from Preacher Waffler either, so their positioning has been great. The big thing about this next zone move, though, it's not a shift from one side of the map all the way to the other. It's a huge squeeze, and this is going to be so tough for these teams to move in.
And we saw as we zoomed out there, Hen's full trio is up. Never doubt the kid from England, able to pick it up in what was a 1v3 situation, eliminates one, backs off another, forces them to disengage, is able to get the reboot by himself, and then he picks up another Elam on the other side, not only singly getting his teammates back in the game, but carrying the Storm Surge damage on his back. Man, I feel like he just does so much with whoever he plays with.
And at the same time, these guys haven't even started yet on total for all their points. Red Squad Trulex back now, yes, with that full shield. I want to see their loadouts to see what they're working with too. Down below, Kinsel Rifle Jerky, another new flavor that is very recent because I've seen Jerky playing with so many different types of teams. I want to see what they can do today. It always seems like these guys have the best early and mid-game starts, but they can never really close it in towards the end.
Another new flavor. That was a nice one. I'm not gonna lie. That was a nice one. I'll give you that. That was prime 10 out of 10 shy right there. But Jerky Stein in the Halloween spirit right now. But his situations look potentially a little spooky as they're stacked kind of right on that edge of the zone, and you're not going to get a lot of rotation opportunities. This is one of kind of the worst areas to have an endgame when it comes to rapid changes in verticality. This is going to run you out of your resources very quickly, whether it is builds, launch pads, or those shadow floppers.
I think height is also one of the big things to control here. So many teams are going to be using pads to traverse what you're talking about. This crazy low ground, the crazy elevation, especially when the majority of the lobby has a max move now. So whoever does control height is going to have a lot less trios, individuals going up to make that retake play. And if you're far away from zone right now, there's a bunch of teams below that threshold. It's getting crazy. Lightning strikes left and right, and the edits with the damage coming through. Jerky's looking for the shot. 107 as the wall drops for a frame. This man's insane, and he's keeping his team alive.
I feel like they might potentially be fighting two different trios right now on this side. No, they're just going to be able to pick that one up. But it's massive shots. Backs against the wall, but when you need to hop in, you need to hop in. No, they were fighting two different trios. Right on the wall there as Kinzel gets picked up on the opposite side of that. So really good job as Huddy now on the bottom, one team on the top. And on the flip side of that, you can see over in Caddy, this is the fight for high ground. Tasek Champion's Reason completely taken away. The high ground dominated. Thomas, Queasy, Anas, they say, this is our house. You all have to come to us in control of the end game. Seeds over to them.
Welcome home. You want some tea? Can I get a cushion for you or two? Because that's what these guys are saying with an effortless height retake. Look at the distance between them and everyone down below. Look at the difference with high society up top and the poverty. Everyone down below trying to land some shots, loot dropping left and right. I'm watching launch pads on the floor right now. Wings is looking really good with his setup. Vidil, Janice, and Noah Riley have also kind of stabilized. Everyone's, in a tough situation, but they're looking for their next move.
I'm very curious, and I want to see if this ends up being a pattern over the course of the 6 games. Noah Riley is either only carrying the lever or is opted into it, which if that's diving into the boxes, that plus the harpoon is such a terrifying combination. If you're able to get directly on top of somebody, it's just so much damage so quickly. And your level of execution, not only being able to grab loot, but potentially displace somebody or take a wall. This is something that, one, I didn't necessarily anticipate seeing, but if there's a player who can make this exciting, it's Noah.
No, 100%. And one of the best things about it, too, if you're sitting on the front side of zone, which these guys have, you have so many more opportunities to dive into boxes, use that harpoon. So he's in the best situation with the best weapons. And yeah, not to mention, it's Noah Riley. So let's get this going.
Yeah, fights are about to break out here, but right now everyone fighting for real estate. As you talked about it, we know who sits up on top of the king of the castle, but just below him, the lords, the ladies, the dukes, and the duchesses. Right now, Seti, Cammy, and Teak, they're happy with this lay of land that they pulled out over on the east side. They didn't have to rotate too far. One Elim, a great Elim out in the open to potentially be able to harpoon some loot away. One of the uses that players miss. They see a launch pad get taken up, not to recycle, and instead go back through their own tarp. They've already invested a solid amount here. It looks like they're going to set up for potentially a little bit of a deeper and a later launch pad of their own. Yes, they will, but we know Teak is holding at least another one. Potentially look up towards high ground, but Hanas and Queasy had that built out perfectly. If you come up to max height, they're meeting you with a pump and backing you down as Thomas looks for any other frags in the connection.
Multiple different split layers to get Thomas all the way up in the front. Queasy dropping the damage in the backside, and Nas, though, taking a lot of damage. CRR was kind of a pit stop in their highway of build so far. They're still moving. No team falling just yet. 16 still alive. Thomas now has an angle on wood builds. Vertically down below, that's huge. Nakos going down. Thomas HD popping off the Aqua and Fast. Roki, they fall inside the storm or the fall damage. That is huge. It's a big high ground retake team that's not going to be here in the end game.
That's Jose picking up the confirmation there onto Aqua, but these are two max pulls. We talked about just how far it went. So many of these trios, they already burned their launch pads. They burned all of this, and up on the high ground, this is the reason we saw the commit so early. You get all of this control. They haven't been shot at once. They're just raining shots from the top down. They're popping peppers, but it's just so they can get more available targets. As Thomas, he doesn't have a sniper, but he's making this AR look like one, just picking out heads whenever he wants. However, on the low ground, Savage picking up full net, and Dreda gets confirmed himself. Wazi gets a knock onto Michael. Sinek picks up Crow as he finally goes down. We're closing in on the top 10. Still cascading placement points going through. Vidil getting the full confirm onto Rifler there as James continues to go ahead. And we still have some big name trios up here in game 1 of the first FNCS qualifier. Chapter 2, Season 8. Europe is bringing the heat, and we hop straight down to the low ground.
This is so tough for any team that's down here. Low ground's kind of like half elevated. It's really stuffed all the way at the bottom, and everyone's gonna have to move through a river. And join us down towards Benji Savage, DreamHack style. Let's see what they got. Ultimate defense with a big shot from Benji as well. Another drop down backwards. He has the defensive builds, but it's not gonna be enough. Savage now left alone by himself, has to push all the way forward. Can he clutch this? As Seti, Cammy, and Teak look to be all alive as Cammy goes down. Savage with a big play on his Styler down below, but he's still far away from the Storm. Trying to move in, goes a little bit up for height. One tick of Storm will take him out. He needs a big refresh here.
Yeah, you can see he has exactly the amount of HP he needed, but unfortunately going to be picked up because, again, the zone is pulling just ever so slightly up the hill, and then you get that one berm, and everyone's going to go down because up on the high ground, they've been single tarping the whole way. Finally now double tarping, just raining shots down, and Thomas HD does not miss. The battle for second on the low ground, just trying to hang in there. It looks like Seti and Co might be able to pick it up, or ForZR will be on the flip side of it. No, you can see now just 3v1. Teak, the last one on the opposite side. He will go down, but 90 lives in the victory royale, and it was dominant, Shia.
Hey, textbook from Thomas. You can't crack down Queasy, and more claws from Anas. I mean, I'm looking at a strong team with a strong start that usually gets better as the day goes on. If I'm another trio in EU playing right now, I'd be scared, Sundown.
Yeah, a key high ground take there in the 5th zone. Just let them ride it all the way out. But we're going to kick it back on desk to break down the first game of the EU FNCS action. Zeke, Reese, Levin, take it away.
My, oh my, it's so good to have Sundown back for a little while, but goodness gracious, this first game did not disappoint. Queasy, Anas, Thomas, HD, 9 eliminations, Levin. That is the start that you want.
Yeah, very much so. I think these guys have shown in previous competitions this season that they are definitely one of the teams to watch out for. And more importantly, right, from an analytical perspective, you know, recently I talked about the worries we had for this team in particular, right? Being Southeast, we talked about how if there are Southeast zones, could they struggle to deal with their surge? It wasn't the case for them, right? It wasn't the case for Anderlecht, ForZR, and Squeeze. They were, what, 3rd place in that game. We saw so deep into that game first zone, a lot of teams pushing into Misty, and that created opportunities for those teams who had priority on zone, and so they were able to pick out players and get storm surge opportunities that, you know, led them deep into these games. And look at the product, right? They're able to end well, dominate high ground, and even beyond that, Reese, as well, flipping 2 max pool zones, and they were still able to keep high and to perform incredibly well. Absolutely insane stuff.
Yeah, it's really impressive when you continually see these zones that pull so far, because, you know, you're just going to use more and more materials to do so. And we didn't really see them have any struggle with that at all. And that a lot of the times comes down to the fact that they were able to take that F5th zone so early with good materials, right? It was in their drop spot. Right? 5th zone was basically where they are, landing in Catty Corner. So they're already able to not use too many builds on rotate. They're up there. They obviously got those refreshes early on from fighting off Aqua. I would thought that this entire season might be Aqua versus Queasy for the 2 high ground teams. Yeah. And game 1, you know, has not failed so far. So it's just nice refreshes there, good control all the way through, and fantastic high keep.
That's right. Now, there's a bunch of stuff that happened early game that Reese wanted to catch us up on. So, Reese, talk us through what you're seeing.
Honestly, the memes to start with, just because it's funny, right? You know, we saw it a little bit. Benji finds the first llama over in Steamy Stacks, and then Mr. Savage just finds the second one right after that, right? You know, everyone knows memes about the Benji RNG. I mean, game number 1, how much more can you ask for than 2 llamas off spawn? But let's look over. We kind of missed this a little bit earlier on. Xenolith managed to pick up Arian off spawn because he landed up on that vertical power position and gets the finish too. So this then left a 2v3 fight for Badil, Janice, and Noah, obviously, to then just insta pick up Milan. And Mitro did a really good job to try and bring this one back, using some nice right-hand peeks, gets the finish, and obviously gets the 2 points for the elimination too, but it's just not enough. So that set up Noah's team really, really well in that game, which obviously now you can see they're down in 8th after picking up those early game elims.
Yeah, and that's unreal, isn't it? That's something that wasn't a possibility in previous seasons, right? Because, you know, if you're not landing there, there isn't anything or any reason for you to land there. But we see the impacts of some of the map changes. Some things never changed, though, and that's and Thomas up in 1st place, back where they belong, alongside Queasy. A phenomenal first game, but definitely the beginning of something very special, potentially, right? Because these guys clearly are feeling confident, comfortable this season. Of course, you can look at Zeiku, ST, and Slovis sitting in second. Seti, Cammy, and Tiku historically seem to do well in these sort of zones and these sort of competitions earlier on, right? Being able to, you know, have a good first day is something we categorize with them in FNCS finals in particular. But all round, not too many surprises. I'm sure Wadsey, Peach and Waffler will be happy with their first game, Reese. You know, I think definitely one of the teams who was more underrated coming into today's game, but definitely a good first game for them.
Yeah, look, I'm going to be real. Based on the way the drops are looking out, I said it. I think Wadsey, Peach, and Waffler 33rd. That was my prediction. I'm just going to stay. But they were smart and they switched up their drop spot. They ended up going down to the IO base near that kind of south side of the map down there near Misty Meadows. And they were able to get the kind of friendly forest, the cube from there on, and get Camp Cod too. So they managed to get tons more loot. Great decision to switch up the early game. No ego from them, and it's really paid off coming top 4. Looking at the next page, we've got over here Egram, Nikov, and Nakos fighting off spawn, doing good, but fortunately going down in the mid game as well. Michael, Mexi, Verox. I want to say Mexi. I'm throwing the old teams in. Michael, Astro, and Verox had a good early game. They did manage to pick up a couple of elims, but not managed to continue the streak that they had in those previous games. And 16th for Strokey, CRR, Aqua looked like a good game from them. But the classic height retake, it either works very, very well or it goes horribly wrong. And unfortunately, in this case, it went horribly wrong.
Well, that's the thing about it, right? It is so punishing because you either get height in that moment and you have a brilliant game and you end up being the first place team instead of Queasy, or you lose that fight and it looks like you might as well have not even been in that game because you're all the way down to 16th. You've not really gotten any significant points. Risk and reward, that's what High Ground is all about this season. And we will see plenty more of that, right? We will see plenty more of these, you know, sort of weird results where a team maybe looks like they didn't have the best of games, but it was just because they went down right before the placement points really started to kick in.
And I think one of the important things is that this season, I've said this for 3 seasons on EU, is that there's no super dominant low ground teams. You've got Kamisei Teak who play way more mid, but there's no team on EU who you're like, they are the low ground team, like from previous seasons on NA East, for example, Commandment, Stint, and Neji. Obviously, now they've split on NA East, but we're not getting to that for on the EU broadcast. But like they were the team that was always on low. EU just doesn't really have that every single week, every single qualifier. So if a team's capitalizing on that, maybe like Kamisei and Teak is so far, we could see some real success for a second.
Hey, Fortnite fam, you heard it from Reese. You know what he wants, so can you deliver? That is the question. But the battle bus is beep, which means we gotta roll on through. We're going back into the action for game number 2 of qualifier number 1.
1 game down, 5 to go, and of course Zone drops right on top of Thomas's head over in Caddy. They didn't have to move, and they were able to execute the high ground defense and then control perfectly Shio. But the one thing that I kind of want to touch on that we missed a little bit, and the analyst kind of glossed over it, Zayko and his trio had 11 elims landing off of that kind of a contested house between Stevie and Craggy. That's a little nutty.
Yeah, I feel like just because there's a south zone doesn't mean the north guys have nothing to do, right? They were just picking people apart, moving all the way towards, you know, the end game. And then once they were there, I believe they were playing a little bit of a mid-ground situation. I mean, you saw the stress and pressure from everyone in that game. They just capitalized on that. So let's see if they can replicate it. Elims are a very consistent way of staying ahead, but you have to be able to get out spawn and control all the different zones. Here's a zoom in, the full net Karmi Wings. They are holding things down against the man, the myth, the legend, Gray, who loves this POI, but will not be able to see it for game number 2.
And Falcon taken out as well, and that's a quick wipe. And honestly, you don't particularly want to fight this trio over in Stealthy. They're very good over here off of drop. They've been landing here for a very long time, and the one thing they do consistently is win Stealthy, and they take these fights very consistently. They're good at breaking up trios and kind of creating what's either a 3v1 or a 2v1 advantage, and the second they have it, they push it relentlessly. But then flipping over to the other side, we saw Janice already got the knock and confirm over to Mitro, so that's plus 2 points, and now trying to push through and get the cleanup, and that's a quick one onto our elite. Shakedown will come through to try and suss out where Milan is, and I don't anticipate he is going to be long for this lobby.
He's right above them trying to hide. Vidil's looking up to see where he wants to go, and yep, might be a window shot. Now they're going to take this outside, close and personal in the parking lot. Lost trying, but it's not going to be possible. I mean, this is not even a challenge, it looks like, for Janice, Vidil, Noah Riley. There might be conversations of, hey, they got a little bit lucky, they got a 2v3 last game, but this was a raw 3v3, and they make it look effortless.
Well, I'm curious to see if there was any chip damage on the inside, because Micho was down almost instantaneously, and you can see how Noah Riley and Vidal instantly building back up to take pot shots again and ensure that they're going to remain above that Storm Surge. And they're probably not worried about that first 71, as if you get any form of damage, you're likely to be at least okay to be close to the check. If you're getting elims, you're going to be above it. But that second Storm Surge, the one that happens around 5th zone and then goes down to 50 players, that one is brutal on EU.
That's where a lot of teams, even if they have good position, kind of down bad and have to end up pushing someone or something to make something happen. Right now, Lucky Lazen and Erican as well. I mean, I'm not sure what happened in game number 1 to get Lazen swimming across the world, but clearly this time in Dirty Docks, they have a little bit of an essence of control.
Yeah, back up on their feet, and you can see there with that marksman rifle trying to get some shots over something that's very efficient when it comes over the Storm Surge tags, if you're able to get it. And we will end up seeing a little bit of a disengage coming through from Verox, recognizing that I'm not in the best of positions. If he needs to invest more mats to kind of maintain that, it's just going to hurt his resources for later. As we've seen 4 full trios go down, so a little bit quicker than game number 1, which is about what you can expect on EU. The tempo will pick up until we get into game number 5 and 6, where a couple of trios will go down near instantly, and then after that, everyone will tighten up, as the top 5 is all that matters today.
To get towards that top 5, you want to make sure you're being consistent though overall. Blacky's shots are looking really nice and consistent, even on long range. You're trying to challenge a marksman rifle here, my friend. It's not going to be the best odds in your favor. Down to Brick now off the rotate. It looks like Erican has pinched off Verox with Lazen, 2v1. Picked that one up. And the coolest thing about this off-spawn POI fight, I only see one Elim here so far. I know the other team they're fighting as well, Verox has none. It looks like Astro might have disengaged and gone somewhere else. It used to be a 3-way fight, at least even in game number 1. I'm wondering where they moved to. That's a quick decision too, because usually for control over 6 games, people end up fighting for their spots for at least half of them. By game 2, a team already disengaging, people in EU are taking it very seriously.
Well, I think one thing you have to consider is the change in format to the overall FNCS itself. If you're looking to make it through the finals and you weren't one of those top 3 teams, it's a little bit more stressful, right? If you don't end up getting that top 5 in this week, you have one more opportunity next week to get top 5. Otherwise, you have to 100% stick as a trio, because you don't want to really keep the shot going through. You want as many of those series points as possible, because those top 66 trios then basically get tossed in where you just have to win a game at some point. You will play a ton of games and you just have to have the capability of winning a game. But the one thing about competitive Fortnite, particularly at the highest level, not every team is always capable of winning a game. Right? Some teams play completely around the strategy of hey, I can make it to every single end game and know that getting just seconds and thirds and fourths and the occasional 5th and 6th going through is totally fine. But being able to confidently go into a set of games and know that hey, we can win at least one. I'm not sure there's a ton of trios who really be yeah, I'm definitely willing to bet my entire FNCS paycheck on that. So it's going to take a lot. You can understand why these trios are putting so much in, particularly in the early games. As you see, Rezone actually get knocked from Wings. So Wings and Co. getting an early rotation away. You can see Amplify and Quinton also being knocked. That's a Loot Boy trio getting some early action. And Shio, we might not even see a Storm Surge. 73 players.
Yeah, people are making big changes. It's only about 5 teams, which means there's so many. They're also fragmented as we're rolling through. Remix taking out United. Xeno going down as well. There's a back and forth trade there. Tasting another big pickup inside of Carmi and the Wings trio. I mean, there's so many things happening in the north. I like the fact that the Loot Boy trio, who were kind of hesitant in that last game, will they, won't they, on the tags, and you mentioned it yourself, they only got, what, 1 AR shot for a 30-bullet beam, actually went to town on these guys and definitely got the full pickups on Amplified, everyone part of their company. Q-Roll, Hyzix, Gets. I mean, these guys were, I believe, reboot round lords, or at some point really good at winning these special type of games. Looking at them now, they're also one of the only teams on this north side of the map that is kind of scot-free. No one's around them. And I know you're talking about, finals, trying to get there. It's very different. People are gonna have to start to change things based on the format. It seems kind of like a hyperbolic time chamber where every good decision that's made is compounded. Thomas is probably feeling really good right now and confident for the next few games. Everyone that's kind of, shaken up after that first game is taking so many risks right now. And there is no reward I'm really looking at on the side of the map, because Now we're down to 70. There's definitely no Storm Surge.
Yeah, and you can anticipate that number might potentially just push up and back down depending on the number of fragments you talked about. But as you said, now 9 trios have gone down, so 27 players just up on out of the game. So we're kind of right around that line, actually. You know, I say never do math on broadcast, but I'm okay with that. There's only one player who could potentially be rebooted coming through, and I just find it very funny when we talked about how in the time it took us to explain how everyone was taking it seriously and the changes of the format and it all, so many players got eliminated that the point was no longer relevant.
It's always Surge that either messes the players up or messes up whatever analysis we're trying to drop. People get scared from it. They super push, have a bad game 1, toss it all in game 2, and maybe they get serious in game 3.
And it's tough, particularly when you're in those 6-game sets. You can only really afford to have 2 rough games. After that point, your next 4 games have to be fantastic. Like, you need to be placing top 5 in the next 4 games. You only get 2 bad ones. Otherwise, somebody is going to rise to the occasion. Somebody's going to be putting those points up on the board. So you really need to kind of buckle down, really get your space priority, get your rotations, and be able to execute on it. Because in situations like this, like Verox, Astro, Michael, not necessarily in the worst of spots with 27 points in the first round, but now being caught and just sandwiched, leaving through the dirty docks in the team on the interior. That's probably steady Cammy and Teak just sitting on the inside as we're going to flip on over to Refsguard, Hen, and Trulex on the southwestern side of the map here, and just take a peek on with them. We talked about Hen's just absolute gargantuan performance in game 1 to really rescue it and salvage 14 points for this one.
This time they'll be moving up the map, and hopefully Hen won't have to super clutch, but I wouldn't mind seeing another one. It's always nice. The highlight reels down.
He is just so fun to watch play. At some point in time, if you get an opportunity, just go through one of his better solo Cash Cup performances. He'll have one, I promise you, at some point this season. The kid can he just plays Fortnite on a different level than some other people. It's just so smooth to watch. And it really has been an exciting player, because I think about it going back and initially covering him, it was just right around when he ended up turning, it was either 14 or 15. He just kind of started winning tournaments, just absolutely all over, whether it was Cash Cups, FNCS, and all that. And since then, he's turned into one of the best players in Europe.
I think the switch up with the teams as well, for him personally, gives him more room to be that star player, right? And Genesis Chapix beforehand, it seems like there was so much, you know, frontline firepower. Everyone's trying to make the pinch or be that final shot, the closer. But this time with Hen, he kind of has a little bit of room to dictate how the fight goes. He gets to set the pace, the tempo. So that's really nice for him. And clearly, even when he has no teammates, he can still perform.
Yeah, and we'll see how those team changes end up netting out, which has been one of the bigger stories of EU. I mean, typically it's more NA East who goes through the roster shuffle and a change and a song and dance every single season. Of course, there's a core group of EU trios who like to mix and match and swap players around occasionally here and there. But I think this season, the changeover has been probably the largest we've seen in a long time.
In game 1, one of the biggest issues for this team on the screen right now, Hen, Refsguard, and Trulex, was a position like this, where they finally based up for Surge just to get a little bit of aggression in tags. I think Scram's trio, which is also ironic because it's Scram pushing Refsguard, ended up rolling in and fighting out. This time they're really making sure there's no one around them. Difference though, because before in game number 1, everyone was so spread out. Everyone was so far away on all these mountains in zone number 2. Now you can see the clusters kind of getting closer because there's less teams overall. People might want to be on that recycle grind already for mats, or just want to read the positions. And there's so much more room to move that they can. Ziny QB and Fredo alongside 5 other teams trying to get this bridge spot held down.
Yeah, and the bridge just so valuable because it allows you to refarm up in that circumstance. But one thing, again, inside of that first Storm Surge interval, so not going to end up seeing it with 69 players up on their feet, unless we do get a couple of reboots, but with 10 teams who have dropped out, not really the opportunity to actually put us above. So you can see in this circumstance right now, Shio, we're already below the first placement threshold. All of these teams have already gotten the +5 points for this game. So automatically, you're going to be at least a little happy. You can like kind of put your hat on that. It's like, okay, at least we got the 5 points here. It's not an utter failure of a game going through. We're not going to be kind of sitting, looking at that goose egg going through, which is one of those worst feelings. But right now, Seti, Cammy, and Teague already picking up an elim going through. See the quick stat on the left-hand side. If you're unfamiliar with this trio, they finished 4th in last season's finals and have just really, I don't want to say kind of changed the game, but really given people a reason to investigate different possibilities for split drops and what it means to control the map and control real estate off of the start.
They're also the best reboot round team that never qualified through a reboot. In terms of, I think, 2 or 3 seasons ago. If that was a separate tournament, they would have set records, but unfortunately could not win a game. And that's one of the big things this season, right? We were just talking about it, winning games. We'll definitely have a chance to do so. At some point, there should be like 7 or maybe 5 less teams playing by the 6th game when you're playing inside the semifinals format. So it should be nuts to watch these very consistent split drop teams attack this new format. Solve SD and Zaiku, though, I mean, already 2 elims up. We're wondering how they got all the way up to 11. I believe it was Slove just taking out layers and layers of teams in the end game. Right now, Wings pulling that Karmi. They're kind of confident taking out Janus earlier on. Up top on one side of the map.
You can see directly below them on that side, the deal, no Riley. And Janus back up on his feet. They'll have the 3 elims right there. And also Noah Riley rocking the epic pistol, something that I love. Absolutely love the addition of. One, it allows you to kind of split your medium ammo. Notice how he's not using any of this, so he can put the rifles on his teammates' hands. But also, this thing is nuts. The first shot accuracy reset on it is very, very, very quick. So if you're accurate, like a player like Noah Riley, and able to pick headshots, you also still have that 2 times multiplier. So it's 25 damage to the body, 50 damage to the head going through. That's a 4-tap if you're able to get it out. And we've seen players be able to execute on it, particularly in kind of these close range situations. Plus, it offers just a little bit better and more efficient wall pressure than a typical AR. So big fan of that little min-maxing and efficiency, and not a huge fan of that there, as the deal almost taking some ball damage and took a couple of ticks of the storm. Of course, they are picking up Zestin in the feed. That's a full confirm going over, and 66 players remaining in this circumstance as they do hit that chili splash rotate. But notice how they made sure they're able to top off right afterward.
Very efficient slot pass for the rest of the game as well. Everyone's now moving in. Early risers get to have a little bit of a better position faster, but then teams like Rifle, Jerky, Kinzel, who are moving in later, get to stand up top on them. They will be the ones looking to recycle pads from here. They will be the ones looking to dictate shots, but they'll also be making a lot of the first edits. So if anyone does look right back at them, there's so many different nooks, crannies, small pixel vantage points that can trip them up.
Yeah, but you can see sitting on plenty of excess heals in this regard, but not necessarily any excess shields to put you above 50. So, and as I say that, they get a community chug splash to top off. Mostly everybody feel a little bit more confident about the trades. But this is going to be a little bit of an awkward mid-game scenario, because if we don't see the pace kind of pick up a little bit here, the next placement threshold doesn't begin to tick over till we get into kind of those top 17 trios, right? And we didn't see a first Storm Surge, so these teams have no idea the amount of damage they've done or they've needed to, and that damage is going to be much higher. That's going to make that fifth zone Storm Surge. If we get there, it's going to be really chaotic and really hectic, because teams are going to have much less of a barometer to know where their damage is at, and decisions are going to have to happen much quicker.
Might be a low-key blessing in disguise, because right now there's so many teams locked in side by side that they knew they were down or up right on stream with the number. It might just become a grief fest in all these builds, right? So everyone's kind of silent, waiting. They understand there's like a little bit of ominous energy in the air, but no one's really locking down on it just yet. There's just a few ARs firing around. No one even has that much control of the zone. Savage and Dread Benji don't even care about when the zone's moving. They'll go first. Savage takes a little bit of damage. They have so many heals. Chuck splashes and the Spiceys and some minis. But Andretta and Benji have been rocked right now, and they're getting 360-degree lobby focus as they move throughout the map.
Yeah, but they should be fine once you get on the edge of that cornfield. There's a slight change there in the topography, which allows you to kind of just break one of those line of sights. You can see now how they're not taking fire from the people who are already in zone. But what's super odd to me, look at the bottom right-hand corner. We only had 3 or 4 trios who had already stacked up around the outside of the 4th zone. Don't forget, the 5th zone is the half in and half out, which reveals around it. So real estate around the outside, you talked about the rising prices in EU. Well, I mean, that stuff goes for like castle level, right? You want to build up on that outside, like you got to take out like 3 different loans. You got to like call your Swiss bank account, rearrange some funds around, get everything you need. And yet nobody is posted up. There are still so many people chilling up on the northwest side of the map. We're seeing launch pads burned early on the 4th to 5th zone rotation. And yet here comes flying in Janus, trying to create a little bit of space. He's going directly above Andretta Savage and Benji Fishing right there. They're just going to seed that away. They say, yes, we see the full metal builds. Actually, no, you can see breakdown might potentially be happening here. Looking to potentially edit him out. Some trade coming through and a knock on the other side of it. Were they the ones to get it? You can see Wolfie getting a full getting full confirmed there by Steady. You can see the drop down coming through, and great work from Savage, Andretta, and Benji to pick up the Elim and really deny that space take.
I was thinking Janus fell down to Sean VP across the map. And this is very good for Andretta, Benji, and Savage. I think the biggest issue now, and they're not feeling it just yet, they have to use so many mats and heals to get to this spot. As I say that, they do find Janus's body, get the refresh, and now Savage almost has 2 max Spicy Splash inventory slots. It's basically a chuck cannon at this point that makes you move faster too, in terms of the way I'm seeing it, and everyone's got their damage update as well. There are 400 above. This is one of the best spots to be in while pulling zone in your own metal tarp that's like 7 boxes wide. If there's a game to win, it's this one for Savage, Benji, and Andretta.
He needs to split those splashes right now. If somebody else on his team does not have a set of splashes, you need to avoid the worst case scenario of that. You need to avoid exactly the worst case scenario of that, with a player with the spicy splashes gets dropped down, and now Andretta is forced to just 1v3 with none of the best resource right now in the game. He's going to be able to pick up Etsy, but he had zone pulled on top of him. You had no reason to go there. Drop cones on your feet and then disengage. Benji's been picked up now. He's been full confirmed over. You can see Andretta desperately trying to create some form of space, but he is just pinned in, boxed like a fish. No, Benji's already taken down, and Andretta falls. And it went from a fantastic situation, just gets blown up. But look who it was, Zeko, Slovenko, who had 11 eliminations in the first game, and they are just going for broke here, pushing some of the biggest names in EU like it was nothing. And the reason for all this action, Chayo, is the Storm Surge. Look at the purple lightning from the sky. Nobody knew where they were at. Hen picking up Elims on the side. Still 5 more players need to go down before it turns off.
That's one of the biggest issues with having safety on low ground. You feel like nothing can touch you, but if there even is one floor, right, that one option to come from below, you can't defend it. A triple spray, even if it's metal, doesn't matter. And Slove goes against the grain to make it happen. Steady, Kemi, Teak, they're better than just having one little cluster of a base. They have a big, wide, long, just entire expansion here that's letting them see everyone and anything, like a shooting gallery in front of them. No pressure from the backside either. But I'm not sure if they're exactly all the way inside zone. It's very tricky, and it's just closing in 5 seconds. Teak's on the very back edge of it, and everyone's kind of spread apart. No one, though, is really that vertically high. Everyone's still just close to the ground waiting for this next zone.
Yeah, there hasn't really been a natural high ground opportunity to really go and force it. We're closing in on that next round of placement thresholds. You can see there, it will tick over once we get into that top 17. It's +1 points all the way into the top 3, where you'll then end up getting an additional point for second and third, and then +4 for that sweet victory royale. And everybody knows it owns the tiebreaker too. You can see dropping below 50 players there. Thomas HC, Queasy, and Anos are game 1 winners, still up on their feet, but no Elam so far. Don't forget, match number 1, they were able to take control of high ground, but they did it in the 5th circle when the zone dropped on top of their head, this time being forced to rotate away. But Thomas with 3 fantastic precision weapons on his side, from the epic charge shotgun, legendary AR, and then that rare marksman rifle. If he gets an opportunity to start beaming shots, we already know what he's capable of. But that's like the 4th time I've seen Hen's name in the feed in the top left. I would love to watch either Hen or Etsy and his trio, because they're just picking up Elims. And right now, well, it's the 4th time I've seen his name up there, but only 1 Elim. Some knocks coming through, but not quite confirmation. Still has 2 Elims now to his name, so confirms going over. And right as I say that, the other trio gets picked up. Slove, Etsy, and Keiko, the team with 11 Elims last game, goes down. Hen, great about face to end up getting the full confirm onto Karmi, and nearly a triple dink right there. And Hen up on the high ground, he says, "Who are you to challenge me?" Well, Aqua says, "I'm the Duo World Cup champion. I'm here. Hi."
And he gets this classic Aqua Chop as well. The whole high ground gets baited, brought down. Beskar Trulix now have to find Hen once again, and he is here to play. High ground, here we go. 560 above for Hen. They're trying to find a home here inside mid, but it's not going to be possible. Harpooning through multiple builds. They're going through this layer, and they want to find some pain. Hen is going to lead the charge. Refscar takes over, blocked by a wall, and now sandwiched in between. The backside, there's a window open, and that's not a very pleasant breeze coming through. That's a big shotgun shot. They have to move down, down, and down, but they can't even find low ground. Another mid layer. A man chasing from the backside. There's some rats in the zone, and they can't get exterminated. Wings is still here, looking to take height away, but it's Fast Roki, CRR, and Aqua on a split layer. That's going to be unchallengeable, and now it's just Refscar left alone on low.
Yeah, Falcons player trying to clutch up, do his best, get a little bit of space here, holding on, knowing that every trio that drops is an additional point. Setting Cammy going down there. Looks like Teak was picked up. Yes, Master getting that one. So another point over for Refscar there. You can see Scram getting picked up, and it is CRR and Aqua up on height, raining shots down. Anas, though, picking up a double knock there. Flonada and Scram getting confirmed over. So Anas, Thomas, and co. still picking up points in Badil, Janice, and Noah Riley on our screen now, sitting on 4 elims. We got a bunch of trios still just hip to hip.
Thomas popping off, squeezing it off, at a back-to-back turtle formation, but it gets cracked by Wings once again. Now Lysen's left. He's the last person of that squad, taking out Erican. Height, though, just got all those mats from Thomas's body and have a refresh to play with. Badil is still trying to clutch, lands a big 48. Is that a knock and a finish? Yes, in the blink of an eye. I mean, if yours were closed, you missed it. Badil stays alive.
I was just about to say, I barely even saw the shot animation there going off. He's going to end up getting the speed effect from the Pepper as well, and that's a huge 3-point swing already. 105, make it another 3 points, add an additional 6, and Badil said, Hen, whatever you can do, I can do better, pushing his team up to 6 elims and a top 7 performance now as Fullnet goes down to Maestro, and we're getting a great individual clutch here out of Badil, but can he get some additional space? He just needs to get back. As you see, we are pulling just a little bit above into another previously built off section, so players could potentially be funneled up into him, but he needs to avoid for Strokey, Aqua, and CRR just raining shots down and looking for targets.
2 full trios trying to control low for the moment, and Aqua still on height, dropping the pressure. Seems like they have an unlimited portion of ammo, and Badil's their next target, down to 3 mats. That's tragic. And Alexis picks up Maestro, so they're having a little bit of advantage on that low ground fight. Badil still trying to be very careful, letting everyone else make the noise. Going by undetected, finally drops down 3 players, but doesn't take the shot. Trigger discipline, big one, 115, but now he's found out. Has to really work with the movement here. A big edit, he's still not down. Makes it all the way to top 4, and now this 3v3 concoction of an endgame begins.
That's disgusting by Badil, by the way. We tuned in at top 15, and we were like, hey, any point to get is nice, top 4, and 2 additional elims, but now 3v3v3v3, and you can see, or 3v3v3, commitment goes in. Aqua getting the knock onto a squeeze, but not going to get the confirm in time, so that extra HP going over. However, you can see zone control going to CRR. No Chugs cannons in the back of the zone, but there is a Chug splash. Zinni currently has the HP lead, but doesn't matter when you take a left-hand peek against Vestroki. He finds the clutch with 2 storm ticks to spare, so a little bit of sweat off his brow in the end.
I mean, I think Aqua was just holding them back a little bit. They spent so much time on height, and finally he was like, all right, guys, leash is loose. Get down there, do the damage, and they wrap up that game in phenomenal, fashionable style.
Yeah, and that's twice now we've seen the team who's able to really establish high ground control, able to take over the victory royale. Let's kick it back on over the desk so they can break it down. Zeke, Levin, Reese, take it away.
Thank you guys so much. My goodness. All right. I thought game number 2 was going to be absolutely hype and it could be top. I take it back. I'm so sorry, game number 2. I underestimated you. That's on me. Wow. First off, the deal running around that solo effort, bringing home a top 4 for the team. Aqua on height, Levin. Is this are we going back in time?
But that's what you expect to see. You expect Aqua to be on height at some point. And the way that endgame actually played, that was so interesting to me because Sundown mentioned in Zone 4, right, where a lot of teams are burning their pads, right? So you sort of go into the endgame thinking, well, probably not going to be a lot of interesting height takes there, right? Not going to be as hectic for whoever the high ground team is. And you know what, Hen Trulex, right? That team's looking up on height, they're thinking, there we go, we're good, we're vibing. No, Aqua's still in the lobby. It doesn't matter. They don't need pads, right? None of this pad stuff, you know, that's for the youth, right? We are the old school height takers. They came in, they took it, they win the game. Just exactly how you'd expect Aqua to do it. What a second game. So much went on there. You mentioned the video. There was just so much. I can't even process it all right now.
I'm muted. There we go. We're back. Don't worry, boys. I'm still here. I'm just waffling as we go. I was going to say what's interesting, given the fact that it was TrueLex's team that ended up getting chopped out, is the fact that TrueLex's team previous seasons have been the ones who are able to chop out teams the most on height. So my mic chopped out, but we're still good. Don't worry.
That's fine. We'll save it. I really thought you looked like you were making some really great points. So
they were fantastic. They were better than the ones I made.
Yeah.
Well, hey, Reese, how do we keep these fantastic points going on? We saw Aqua on height. There's a lot of amazing things that happen from height, but what's going on down in this low ground? You asked for it from game number 1. What happened in game number 2?
Look, game number 2, I want to show you exactly what happens on the zone transitions, right? You see here, the previous zone has pulled in this direction here, and the teams who did well in this game were nearly all the teams who have tunneled further into zone. If you notice, the teams who are not that far in are the teams who are in this kind of south side. Look at all this congestion. Look how many teams that are here, right? So in these zone transitions, you go a little bit deeper to make sure you have a position, because look at all this space. Look at all this. There's just nothing over here. So in a sense, if zone ends up pulling like this, which by the way it does, you can see all these teams are already far ahead and they can just claim. They can just all the way to dead side. Now, if you notice a team right here, C2S8, all these little boys in this spot are one of the teams who ends up going further into the zone. Just to note, the teams that were all in this further position claim the top 10 in this game. So every single one of them. C2S8 then, because that zone pulls far, they can assess where the dead side is here, which was up north, claim that front side, beautifully tarped by C2S8 as always.
Pops.
Amazing, right? And end up making their way into obviously a really good finish in that game.
That is poetry in motion. Honestly, if you want to make me happy, if you ever see me and I'm sad, just show me a video of Seti tarping and you can cheer me up. Something that is cheering me up, Ali LeBlue, the Frenchies on top, and Alex Fourzier and Xweez sitting there in first place. In the meantime, right, 2 games, 2 good games, and 80 points is what they show for it. Queasy and Aston Thomas, even after going down somewhere in that end game, they are still in that top 3 sitting in second. And Ginny, actually, another team sort of in that southeast area. All the teams from the southeast area, Reese, seemingly are the ones who are doing well right now. And Alex at Misty, Queasy at Catty, and Ginny over at Retail Row, the top 3 right now. These guys are loving it.
They're looking strong, very much so indeed. We said them over the top of the show, and they are not disappointing. And in 9th place, that Victory Royale now moves Aqua's team up into 9th. If we have a look over to that next page, just to see exactly what's going on there, we'll see who's not obviously clutching up that big. Andrea, Savage, and Benji. 2 games in a row with the double llama. We saw Benji also with the gold charged shotgun. So a lot of the setup is there, right? They had the loot, they had the potential, but they're just not managing to capitalize on that quite yet, always losing a player earlier on.
What's more Benji fishy than 2 back-to-back games with double llamas? There's nothing more Benji fishy, is there?
There is not. There is no way. All right, we're about to jump aboard the battle bus again. Really quick point. I'm loving Xweez and company. Remember, we only have 7 trios that have stayed together from last season, and this is one of those trios. Is there something to this? I don't know. I don't want to say yes or no, but we're going to talk about more of this later on. For now, though, we're going back over to Sundown and Shy Wager to take us into game number 3.
2 games down, and we're heading into the halfway point, and right now 59 points is how tall you have to be to ride that finals ride, Shio. However, it's really close right there when you look at everyone else who's 6 through 10.
Yeah, and the styles are so different from all these teams too. Some of them super aggressive, really pushing it forward, like you see in Alexa's team all the way towards the very end. At the same time, some playing so defensive, like Thomas's in 2nd place, making sure in mid-ground they're controlling all the layers, all the tarps. And I think it was Levin who mentioned it. One of the biggest things you're seeing right now in this situation, one of the biggest ones, is it's all the teams on the south side that are prospering right now. Misty Meadows, Caddy Corner, that's Andalex, that's Queasy. Even people like Scram are doing pretty well so far. Ref Squad popping off on the bottom left too. So, I mean, Sundown, if you want to win, you got to be from the south.
Currently, that seems like the situation with how the zones are going, but one of the big things is the +2 points in zone number 4. And speaking of big things and how big eliminations end up going through, or +2 points for eliminations in round number 4, excuse me, I got distracted by the fact that Mitro just whacks Janice to returns the favor right off of the start. He says, Mr. Miyagi, you can get that one off of your car, sends him out of here. And that was quick. First player out of the map, barely had time to touch his feet. And on the other side of it, Zayko also picking up Geds. So, I mean, that's 2 fights that we've been kind of keeping an eye on that have turned, 1, the opposite way, and then 2, just how we've seen as Etsy is picking up the second one there.
I feel like they're only going to get more aggressive. And this time, yeah, SC rolls into an undisturbed location, that dis station, and just takes people out. There is no vacation for that trio. Their Q roll was looking nice and fine in game 1 and 2. No shot this time. This POI, though, I'm so concerned. Retail row is not getting enough action. It might just change because it's used to changing week to week, right? Just in general, what happens in retail. And usually there's so many teams that end up fighting here. Now I think this is the first time we're really seeing a little bit of conflict that rolls in, some control with the entire side of the map. And it will be what looks like a 3v2 with Fred rolling in with Ziny, now a 3v1 as they wrap things up.
And you can see the leaderboard there on the left-hand side showing just how close it is to the singular point eliminations being the difference right now. And as we saw over in Asia in particular, 1 point could be the difference. It could be the Victory Royale tiebreaker going through, but Fortnite being picked up instantly. We talked about how good they were over at Stealthy, but it seems like this game, well, in a 6-game series, you can expect always to go 6-0. And it seems like the people wanted their revenge coming through both over in Stealthy and Believers Beach. Right now in retail, though, for Doxy & Co, 3 quick elims, 6 quick points, pushing them up to 70. They're inside that top 5 and rather comfortably now with that +6 coming through.
I actually like the fact that you mentioned top 5 and tiebreakers, because usually these guys are fighting for a top 3, and that's big point swings. Sometimes the difference between 3rd and 4th is 10, or they have their own echelon where they're fighting against each other, right? In the top 5, we've noticed it. It's like sometimes a 1-point tie. People over there are sometimes just 2 points apart, barely even. And sometimes the Victory Royales even change up the way things work. So consistency is going to be huge here. I think all the way till game 6. So you're saying, you know, you can kind of give up 2 games. For a top 5, you can maybe only even give up 1 if you want a chance of qualifying for the finals.
Yeah, I'll give you that. I think for top 5 too, your measure of, or your ability to give up a game kind of also increases a little bit, knowing that if those pop-off games are that much harder, that sneaking into a 4th or 5th place spot and having that kind of miracle run, right, is able to stick through. But you can see the quick stat on the left-hand side. 3 of the current top 5 teams remaining are trios. Are returning trios. It's almost as if staying with a team and building up chemistry is helpful. I don't know.
I mean, a wise man did once say a trio that stays together slays together the leaderboards towards the top. Now, I'm not sure about the backside of that saying, but what I am sure of is when Mitro's angry, he's 2 games down, this man is pushing boxes without a thought. And when that happens, other teams roll in and make him mauled even more. Remix, Xenolith, and Sean, the third-party gods of the day so far, are not making it easy for any team on the map.
Yeah, he does have that legendary pump. He does have 78 builds as well. If him and Milan can get a little bit of space, box to box, I'll take their setup 3v2 against anything the other teams are going to be rocking right now. Like, Mitro's in a position where he's totally able to fight this as long as he doesn't get instantly overwhelmed, because trading against that legendary pump is utterly terrifying. However, I love the Firefly adjustment, because if they're not able to immediately get brick cones down and make something happen, the pressure on them is going to be instantaneous. But that's what we talked about, 138. And he was barely able to get kind of 3/4 of those pellets through. You saw a couple get chucked into the side of the door, and he still just chunked Xenolith all the way out. However, you can see Xenolith popping his resources, getting back up to his effective HP. Doesn't seem like he has any excess shield, so already even this trade out a little bit.
I can see the comms from Xeno coming in too. Guys, I have an angle. Sean's like, you should probably stay up. Boom. All right, I got you. I'm not going down again. It's all good. It's fine. I didn't even realize until he shot the gun itself. But yeah, having a gold pump in this scenario, you're right. I would be here 2v3 any day. The guys up top have to make a move first. They're going to be running out of AR ammo faster too, because this is still kind of early game. At the same time, so much room for Mitro to move around in. And the biggest thing too is it kind of looks like they have a little bit closer of a zone to travel to. So far, these guys have had to go down all the way to Lazy over and over again. It's just close by. Now he's wall to wall looking for this fight. Might be a 2v1 and no. Caught trying to reposition. A big AR push as well. Takes out Milan. And that's the 3rd game Mitro will not see any placement points in at all.
Shh. Be very quiet. We're hiding. I'm very familiar with this strategy. Trust me, Wings. I know what it's like. I'm a big fan of min-maxing the amount of builds used, because, hey, if you throw a build out there, people are like, man, somebody might have walked over here. If you just hide behind trees, nobody has any clue what's going on. And right now, Cynic, Maestro, and S. Tyler trying to get a rotation through, currently sitting on 59 points. We talked about kind of the line to ride the ride. Well, they're the kid who wore their 2-inch tall shoes right now and just managed to kind of lift their chin up, hold up tall, and they're like, I fit, right? I fit. And the The amusement park attendant's like, sure, I don't really care.
Doesn't get paid enough for this, you know what I mean? On the ride. Keep your hands inside the vehicle.
You'll be all right. Hold on tight.
Question is though, is he having fun on this ride? Because being just at 59 has to be super stressful. Everyone that's kind of around you, you can't even affect, right? These guys are landing in Weeping Woods. It always seems isolated. The people that are kind of tied with Full Net and on the other side Vidil, they can't really go and have a conversation with in terms of dealing damage or stopping them in their tracks. They're kind of at the mercy of everyone else on the field.
Yeah, and you're pushing up into high ground, which is never favorable in position. Like we talked about it, how many times people have had the high ground and it just doesn't end up well. You always want to be able to walk away from those type of situations, but sometimes that's just not the case. And it's a little difficult there too, because they tried to do the resource denial play where you pick up those fireflies that are on the ground and you just chuck them out there. Make sure people can't refarm the wood that's already there. You ensure that you've topped off. But if you do that and somebody's already holding the high ground, it makes rotating out of there not only that much more inefficient in terms of cover, you have less mats to immediately recycle and much farther to go. So you kind of have to plan for that contingency ahead of time. And we saw them avoid the worst case scenario there as No Riley Janice looks to get a zone reboot here, which I love this play, particularly with the amount of those chili chug splashes they have.
It was Noah Riley as a solo as well before, so I'm wondering what happened to Vidil. Did they get the full reboot off, but then they got fragmented again? What the entire deal is there? It's all good. They'll be back.
And Wings are looking to rise from the ashes like a phoenix, but unfortunately, it seems like that one was stamped out there and unable to pop back up because no reboot coming through, and he's going to be forced on a relatively long rotation around the outside here. I think Craggy is the next available one. He does have a med kit. I'm trying to think. There's a campfire immediately opposite him as well, so he should be fine. This is just going to make the next rotation, depending on where the third zone pulled, potentially incredibly awkward, and he has 10 builds.
These games, I mean, if Wings does make this happen, remind me of those classic season 1, season 2 wins you'd post on social media or talk about with your friends. Like we were in zone, I was by myself, got the teammates clutched with, revived them all, and then we pushed in and won the entire game. It's an impossible situation. Medkit has to come through, and now Wings is all in. It's looking kind of like a disaster right now, but I mean, we saw Hen by himself and kind of counted him out, and then he popped off. Anything can really happen.
All right, if Wings gets eliminated in the storm, or his trio gets eliminated in the storm, I'm actually going to end up being really upset because he could have saved that med kit. There's more campfires on the interior rotation if you just go straight in. You don't necessarily want to bop back out to the coast to catch that one, particularly when the zone is still pulling still internally. So I would have just gone over and just hit that real quick. Just hit the campfire. Yes, it's going to delay your ability to end up popping out of zone, but based off of where it pulled, as long as you're not just completely unable to scavenge loot, I think he could have taken the time to just stop off at that campfire and save the med kit. That being said, if there's just absolutely no loot on the path, this is the faster way to just get in there and potentially look to get your team back in the game. However, everyone's back up on their feet. They're going to be happy with that, and we're going to swing back on over. Andalex, Xweez, 4ZR, our current #1 team, and they're sitting just on the outside of Lazy Lake looking to pick shots on the team rotating through on the south side. However, you can see somebody post up on the high ground, and that is brazen. You're just kneeling out in the open in an all-white uniform, just white painted against the green background. The target couldn't get any easily.
Oh, the target's looking straight in your eyes, though, and dropping fear down your soul. You never really get to shoot back, so huge shots from those guys on that side. Thomas AC and Nas Squeezy, same situation, and this is exactly what Reese and Levin kind of touched on. If you have the south side so free, I'm wondering where they're getting this preliminary damage. I still said that word wrong, but I'm not attempting it again. 147 is a lot to dive down with if you're just landing solo on Caddy. We saw that, you know, Analex has already taken over Lazy, so I guess they're just going for pot shots on other bases and really racking up damage that way. It's smart, but you have to be looking at the right place at the right time every single moment that you're there.
You can see fights going down. And one thing I want to be aware of where these fights are happening, because again, last game, the Storm Surge winning came through all these teams. EU doesn't wait for Storm Surge to come through. They check in, they're like, do we have to go fight? If the answer is yes, they go and fight, just like we saw last game, went from 86 to 69 in the blink of an eye, and just like that, 86 down to 82 as the Spanish KPI trio gets completely wiped out. But Fredoxy gets taken down, and he was the one doing a large part of the elims. The third party comes through and cleans it up. No, that was the other part of, no, you're right, correct, going through Jay, Typo, and Cosmo. It was the Spanish trio who got the confirmed elim because the player was already knocked, so one elim going over to them. Another fight on the other side, you got Janice, Badil, and Noah Riley trying to get onto Vettel, ETQ, and Surprise as well. They're able to push through right away, but Badil just gets obliterated, opens up a wall, and ETQ meets him immediately, and Badil gonna get confirmed out, and they're above Storm Surge, so that's a real awkward push.
Not sure if they got the damage from the trade of Badil's body, but at the same time, that transaction is going to be locked in. You cannot reverse it or go back for this time. Another team coming in. This is getting crazy. Meanwhile, Scram just up top. A Watcher trio is letting it all happen. Noah Riley face to face, but not going to have any damage to put down. He's knocked. It's all up to Janice now to try to salvage anything. Backfeed goes down. Hyjo has the trade. Janice is not by himself. Wings is here now. And this is getting super crazy. That's a pistol I hear as well. Janice completely deleted. That's like 4 trio stories colliding for no reason. They could have just based up and took shots. This is crazy.
They said, Sundown, you were wrong. Timing is everything. So stop telling me you're taking your time, going straight over the hill into the fight, didn't grab anything, and then just hopped into what was a fourth party situation. They get everything they need and more on top of eliminations, and what turned into basically a being hunted situation. Wings goes from prey to predator real quick, and that's 6 points. They're right on the edge of that additional +5 for the placement points coming through. They're above Storm Surge by a comfortable amount, 105. It doesn't seem like a lot, but with only 2 players being pressured by it, they can chill, and they now basically get a pass in the mid game from what was an awful situation.
The only kind of issue with the team that they picked up in terms of Janice, Noah Riley, and Vadil is that those guys were already so scuffed. They have to go all the way over to Coral Castle, barely even have any loot or AR. And now they're kind of surrounded by a bunch of teams that are so much stronger than them. Yes, you got a few more medkits in tow. You have your team up, ready, and have shields going over to play. But we've seen these end games, right? I mean, you have to have a whole loadout, the big game plan, and so many resources. They're gonna have to wipe out another team if they want to have a chance to survive.
Yeah, I was about to just ask if we could kind of get like a little bit of a lay of the land, zoom around, see what other fights are going on in that circumstance, because I'm very curious as to what's happening on the southern part of the zone. And thank you, observers. Y'all are fantastic. Strokey, Aqua, and CRR posted uploads. Like I said, I think there's a clear kind of cheeky rotation you can make along the river back towards the central side of the map, because everyone has over-rotated and over-indexed into the middle to the fact that the western part of the map, with the exception of basically the team we're watching now and one team up on the north side, there's nobody over here. And a great shot from Frostroki on the opposite side. They're going to pick up that. That's a third elimination. And we also get the +5 coming through for the placement points now that we're into it. And oh boy, that's a pickup and a half.
Dude, Frostroki in that situation, if you guys are familiar with speedsters in any way, it sometimes feels like they move so fast it look like 2 players. He accessed 2 angles and speeds I've never seen and just made it look like it was a 2v1 solo. So that's insane. With a green pump, now it's gold. We saw what Mutual can do with it. Frostroki though, during the end game, the silent warrior, the slayer that likes to sneak up behind you and land a shot, he's got a gold pump in tow. That's gonna be scary.
Yeah, I mean, anytime you hear either that epic or legendary pump, don't forget it has that distinct sound. It makes that kind of guttural little blop sound there. As you can see, Elam's dropping all over the place as teams are forced right on into the edge of zone. Don't forget, we now have zone number 4, so center goes to a little less priority. It's all about the real estate around the outside, but high ground is king once that half in, half out zone pulls. With 64 players remaining, you can check that top left-hand corner. You'll note that we will have to see at least 5 trios go down, or 14 players, in order to see Storm Surge turn off. So anticipate a little bit of action here from the teams who were below Storm Surge, but otherwise it's all going to be about fighting for real estate. As you can see, only 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, maybe 6 of our 21 trios are in zone. That means 15 trios have to rotate their way in. And Teak with a great angle here. Look at that, Shio.
Man's finding shots that shouldn't even exist. And in this situation, I mean, it's huge. All the trios outside are locked in to the south and kind of the northeast. You were mentioning it, right, Sundown. The west is completely open. No one's even focusing on it if they're inside the zone. They know where everyone is trying to get in from. And Teak has a massive layer of defense. Yeah, he's maybe let a few teams pass by. But look at all these other options, like Squeeze, Typo, Savage moving in. Instead of Cammy and Teak, they're just starting off their dinner with a first course.
But and the thing is, none of these teams who are inside the zone have built up even more than 3 layers. I see maybe a couple 2-layer bases. Nobody's committed any form of height. 1, they don't want somebody boxing in underneath them. And 2, they want to wait. They want to see where that fits zone pulse, knowing that every single material matters. But because of that, all these 15 trios that we talked about before, who would normally have to walk into zone, there you see 1-4 and 1-3, and that's our high ground right now. Like, congratulations, awesome. But those were teams who were outside of the zone and literally walked in and barely got shot at, because your line of sights here, those rolling hills, they don't look like a lot, but all you have to do is just barely break line of sight. And these guys are good enough to know those paths. But right now, we saw this team do this in the previous game with the drop down. They're looking to kind of break some of these floors out and hop into another box. Can they execute on it again? Harpoon straight into the wall, 92, but Wings is the one who gets taken out. And like the first Wing at a buffet, munched on instantaneously, taken down, gobbled up, and Surprise lives up to his name. He picks up the elimination, and nothing really traded out, just a little bit of damage.
The damage is what they needed. 64 below, though. Still, they need to get a little bit more. Wings, the man who clutched and got them to this point, lets his teammates now to get control of the wheel. 147 above. He's done his job in the best way possible, and they get to survive and just play this game. The zone goes west. The one place that no one's really in at all. No one has any control of it whatsoever. Karmi finally going down 2. Everyone's still stuck in these builds.
Literally not a single trio read the zone correctly. Everyone packed into the southeastern side. It pulled nearly due west. This is going to cause so much chaos, as again, no high ground has really been established, and it's free for the taking over there. A couple teams just did a nice little hop, skip, and a jump, and they go in. We can see trios already taking the air for a launch pad. 4ZR, Xweez, and Andalex are current leaders, 0 eliminations, but they're on the backside of the zone. You can see they have a trio pinned, and they're going to need to go for a late rotation. There's 2 more trios who need to fall before we are in to those cascading placement points, and there's still 1 trio who is being bombarded by Storm Surge right now, as we have 53 players up, and they're actually going to burn one of their own launch pads and go early. The question is, what will it cost them currently? It looks like just about 50 shield onto Xweez. They get a decent amount of spot. Can they get some real estate? Landing by the bush, always risque, but nobody in there doing their best Drake impression right now. On the opposite side, you can see the shots raining down as players are getting knocked, but no confirms coming through.
And this is one of the coolest end games I've just seen in terms of the types of teams that are rolling in. We saw it from the south side. Everyone quiet, still looking for damage. 4ZR, just 50, above Surge. They need to do something, and they have so many resources to actually make that happen. On the north side, though, there's so many teams that have fought. They're fragmented. They have the damage they need, but not the loot. So they don't need to fight, but they kind of need to as well. It's 2 very different strategies at play right now.
And Surge has been turned off now, as you see 50 ticking over to 49 as a Nos gets a confirmation. So we know Thomas and Co, the match #1 winners. You can see them bottom left-hand side of the screen. And Thomas, man, with that legendary charge shotgun, he's going to play in the back part of the tarp, looking to catch anybody who might walk through, and then just keep the full charge going. Let his teammates open up edits for him, and look to punish his zone now, pulling a little bit back towards you. You can see him checking towards the outside. That's a great, absolutely great harpoon awareness there, picking up just a ton of excess brick and wood, and we're still not into the cascading placement point, so a much different tempo from game #2 here, Shao, much more similar to game #1.
Yeah, but at the same time, in terms of game #1 and 2, Nas, Thomas, and Queasy have had very, very favorable zones. This is still a very good one. And I was going to say, they're going to go through a lot of teams. They go under all of them through the bridge. They had so many people they were contesting with, but just chose to skip that cinematic and go straight to the gameplay. They're starting to move now, but this little bit of a scuffage with the edits might kind of hold them back. The other teams get ahead of them. They just kind of get the lay of the land. It's only Jerky that's kind of really a problem for them, but they get spammed by racks down below. Xenolith goes all the way up for height, and Queasy's actually launch fighting there too. They're going to fight. It might be a height retake. X-Squeeze 4-0 Analex. They stay low. They're just playing the zones. 372 damage below. With 13 players that need to go down, these guys get active really fast.
Yeah, the action's going to happen swift, and you can see the battle for high ground. Anas trying to take it away. Him and Queasy pushing it down, but you see for Strokey, still just a couple tarps left, and it's not that strong off. They need to be aware of a tarp or reinforce very quickly. They're sitting on 2 elimination. The Irish trio being forced all the way down there. As you can see, Zestin picking up the Elam onto battle. We're into the cascading placement points, so +1 for everyone, and then +1 for each trio that drops. But the zone pulls directly back over where we just were, giving high ground not as many opportunities to really pick on eliminations. The eliminations are going to now happen in that mid and the low ground area, where people are going to be running back into each other if they're forced to change tarps. You can see right now our current leaders below Storm Surge, only 1 elimination, only 1 placement point coming through right now in that cascading area, so not a ton of points necessarily picked up. It would only be an 8-point game, which is much off of their pace. They're looking for anything, but with zone pulling back over, Shio, opportunities are few and far between, and as I say that, a huge elimination picks up the legendary burst, puts them above Surge. No, still below.
They're 49 below, still need to find a few more shots with this big bounce back. It's impossible for them to move. Queasy almost lost his ankles on the way down. Big pressure from Reason and Chapix, but they hold on for now. Thomas HD is the cost of this big readjustment of height. It just got chopped about 7 layers, and Anas wants revenge. Goes for a few bullets. A second bounce back comes in. That buys them a lot of time, but now placement will be that much longer to obtain. Anas and Queasy have to do this as a duo. They have no white heals, so Queasy is in a world of hurt and trouble, but they're also kind of in the choose your own adventure type of book right now. If Roki is going down, they have to make decisions to win this game.
And you can see 11 builds on Anas and Queasy with no, and we talked about it before, how it was such an absolutely thin build, and doubling back over the pullback got them chopped not once but twice. However, the amount of resources to take it away from them might not necessarily be there. You can see the shots now being rained up towards them. We'll hop back down to the low ground as just barely able to survive through the storm surge. We have our leaders, X-Squeeze and Andalex. Forcey was the cost to be able to hop, skip, and jump their way in. As Tayson takes out Queasy, there's a fight going on the high ground, and Tayson taking away control. Queasy getting confirmed over. We're into our top 12 as X-Squeeze and Co. just trying to find it. You can see a trio right on the opposite side of that, trying to get ahead. But Reason, Chapix, able to take away high ground thanks to Tayson, finding a huge elim onto Queasy.
A jungle gym of builds on height, and Taste and Reason Chapix have that forearm strength. They're really just navigating this perfectly. They took out the top team up there, but it's still 9 teams inside the 9th zone. This is just an absolute mess of builds down below that Taste and Chapix and Reason have to destroy over and over again. So many teams with this bounce back still have those hard mats. There's metal cones being dropped in this 9th zone. 45 seconds still left, and no team has gone down finally. Benji's still alive and picks off Hellfire. There's so much potential on this mid ground. It's a big vertical squeeze that's happening right now, and Taste and Chapix and Reason, they can't find a way to penetrate all the way down below.
0 builds on Tayson. The question is, does Chapix have any? They're not building out. It looks like they're going to be forced to drop. You can see Sean VP trying to go up. We hop back down. X-Squeeze on the low ground. Legendary Charge has the harpoon as well, trying to find whatever he can give his teammate. You can't take that many ticks, son. It's not worth the exchange there. One more tick and he will go down. He's just holding out. No white heals, will be off. Look to potentially make a medkit play. First partner singing the Coney. See Kinsell going down. Jerky going down. Rifle picking up Reason. Jerky picking up Tayson. The drop down comes through, but the question is, Andalex with the medkit play in the back of the zone. Benji hunting Andalex. The 1v1 ended up coming through. Falcon Andalex finds one, but Mr. Fishy wraps it up, and that is a monstrous 11 elim performance for Benji, Fishy, Savage, and Adretta to rocket them into the top 5 and try and secure their spot for the finals. 3 matches to go. That is a fantastic way to head into the midway point, Shio.
Hey, everything's chilling till the zone goes down to low, and Benji and Savage are still alive with Andretta. That was just nuts, and there was so much going on in that mid ground. We were tuning in with height, but I really want to know exactly, what else happened in that game.
Yeah, what else happened? We'll check it out. Zeke, Reese, Levin, take it away.
I cannot believe this just happened. With his recent win in the DreamHack Open, Benji Fishy looking to absolutely inject some of that directly into the FNCS, and they pick themselves up a win, 11 eliminations.
Absolutely insane. And I see you saying inject it. You know, I know you know the vibes, man. Benji, you know, I'm happy. I'm happy we're here now, right? It took us a year, but I'm happy we're here because this is exactly what you want to see Benji Fishy doing, winning games on the biggest possible stage. And right now, that is the round 4 of Core 1. And these guys have been brilliant thus far. That win will catapult them up in the standings. A phenomenal execution, great play. I'm super happy to see Benji doing well.
Yeah, absolutely. And what's funny is I'm not entirely sure we didn't see their loadout all the way through the game, but this seems to be the one game where they didn't get the absolutely unbelievable RNG, the double llamas, obviously the gold shotguns at the same time. They managed to capitalize on that. I mean, I think a lot of the times, sometimes you get set up for it and it feels bad to choke it like that, but once you end up actually capitalizing on a game where you've just got mediocre to good loot, I'm just guessing. We didn't see all the way through. Maybe they had some crazy loot at the same time. Feels good. That's going to, like you said, move them far up the leaderboards.
Absolutely. There's so much just happening across the board in all these games. Levin specifically called out something that I'm very excited to kind of talk about, and that's Cammy, Seti, and Teak. Levin?
Well, look, what you're about to watch on your screens now caused Astro SMZ to tweet this, right? This is what he tweeted. Astro SMZ tweeted, I'm convinced Cammy split has to be the best spot on the map. Guaranteed elimination out the air every game if you know how to shoot in a straight line. And we're seeing it here. The players that are landing at Dirty Docks, they can't do anything because they glide in, and what happens? They are getting absolutely sprayed from Cammy, Seti, and Teak out the sky. Look at this from Say. This is absolute madness. Picks up a grey pistol and he's just letting off shots, right? He doesn't care. No care in the world, right? Because this is what they can do from the spot. They can literally just sit up high and pick off anybody in Dirty Docks. And these are the kind of things, right, that just make their spots so overpowered, makes them such a strong contender. You can see them there in 8th. They've been doing pretty well. Easy Storm Surge tags, right? It helps get a lot of that early game, you know, frustration out the way. And it's just really frustrating for Astro. And I just really wanted to show everybody to make sure we all knew that this has been happening in every game. Game 1, it happened. Game 2, it's happened. And Game 3, it also has happened. But as you can see in the standings, Andelex, Forzio, and Squeeze sitting up there in first place after 3 games. I'm not gonna lie. Once again, I'll say it. Allez les Bleus.
Allez les Bleus. It looks like it's going to be a bit of a takeaway for them so far, but I'm very, very interested because we've got to think, like, that last game was messy. It truly was. They had nothing. They were below a Storm Surge. They were getting tagged by it coming into especially the moving zone surge, and they still managed to kind of creep out and get a good position out there. The last 2 games, they both had 3rd, which is so good. So they carried on the first 2 games, and that kind of final one there obviously is kind of pushing them up a little bit of points. Still 30 points in that game, despite being below surge, being a duo. Like, super well played from them.
Yeah, and I think it's important for us, obviously, let's take a look at that next page, because you obviously, this is starting to get to a time where teams maybe do panic a bit, or you look to change things up. Of course, you can see Vidil, Janice, and O'Reilly sitting there in 12th. They'll want to be up higher, but we've talked about how they have the potential to always do that. Anyway, for me, a team that's not actually here in the top 20, you know, Jason, Chapix, and Reason, we bigged them up in the beginning. We talked about how everything was set up for these guys to do well. And before this game, they were sitting in 30th. So to be sitting in 22nd, I believe they are in now, is a lot better because they just had a 5th, you know, 6th elimination game. But they need to pick things up. There's 3 games left. This is not a team that, you know, can finish today not in the top 10 and we go, you know, it'll be fine, right? Because everything is just so perfectly set up for them, as we highlighted at the top of the show. So you really expect some of these teams to pick things up faster. Even right below them, Hen, Rescard, and Trulex sitting in 23rd. Another team that really should be way higher up in the standings. So hopefully in these next 3 games, they do pick things up.
Yeah, and for Hen, Trulex, and Rescard, like, they've started the season fantastically. I thought they would probably be a bit stronger today. Jason, Chapix, Reason started a little bit slower than we would have expected as well, because they're usually right off the bat super strong. So, you know, I'm interested to see how it plays the next 3 games, and obviously next week as well.
All right, we're jumping back on the action. Let's send it back over to Monster. I'm sorry, Monster. I was gonna try and put Sundown and Shy Wagers. You know what, Shy Wager and Clay. You know what? Just go. Production just saved me. Get me out of here, production.
Do I need to get a hat and put it on backwards? Is that what Zeke's saying? Should I even call him Zeke? Do you have to change names completely? What are we doing here, son? How do we tackle this?
The way we tackle it is we cover the amazing Fortnite action that is going on. He's Shy Wager, I'm Sundown, 3 games down, which effectively means we're a quarter of the way through qualifiers with only one other qualifier next week before we get into the semifinals. We're hopping on board with our match number 3 winners, 100 Thieves, Mr. Savage, Energy, Benji, Fishy, and Andretta. They were able to push up to 90 points, currently pushing them 13 points clear of that 5th place mark. So very solid performance, and honestly a lot of it coming off the back of that previous game. I mean, that's just nuts.
Yeah, looking at it, just absolutely phenomenal. First place, 11 total eliminations, and I think one of the biggest things to note about it too is that it was a hard-fought victory. So far, when we're watching games 1 and 2, a lot of the people that have been winning, whether that's obviously Analex's team and then Anasa Thomas, they've done it kind of flawlessly, effortlessly. They've kind of let the game just end and picked up elims here or there. These guys that fight for it so hard, I'm not sure if that's going to be replicable again, because you know, you have to basically take out 3 different trios while you're moving down on low ground and clutch off that last fight. If that's the highest point game they're rolling in with, now it's time to kind of up the consistency, because before, top 7, that's good, and then 21st place, that can't really happen again if they want to stay in the top 5.
Yeah, I mean, only getting that +5 is incredibly difficult, but as you see, that one really solid, good game can really push you on up and through with the 2 points per elimination, picking up 22 there, plus the 50 for the victory royale. I mean, that is chunky going through it. I mean, just it adds up. You can see Fullman being taken down on the opposite side of that. He's not going to be happy.
I'm not even worried if Fullnet goes down. I'm chilling with that whole trio unless Wings gets taken out first. Because I've seen that man reboot his whole trio and still be able to get them to a spot to fight for Surge. They have impressed me the most out of a lot of people just today in general. They've been so much fun to watch.
Yeah, I apologize. It's a +30 for victory royale. I'm like, something about what I just said was wrong. I was like, one of those math numbers I ended up adding in. But you can see there now the 52-point game coming through definitely adds up. But we have to talk about this trio shot. They're playing out of their minds. 3rd place, 4 elims. 3rd place, 12 elims. 2nd place, 2 elims. I mean, realistically, if they get even just a decent game here, we could be cementing them in for a qualification. They could be the first team in Europe who has gotten through to qualified outside of our previous 3.
I think the big thing about them too is that they always seem to be in control of every single situation they're in. I never see them in a position where it's troublesome now or things are going super bad. Even when they end up going down, it's as a trio, it's tackling an obstacle they choose to go for. And even if they're on height, I mean, that's perfect. In their mid-ground games, they're either getting a 2nd or a 3rd place. Like, if there is a team to watch, it has to be this one. My question is it because of the drop? Because if that's the case, I don't think Misty goes uncontested in the finals at all, right? Especially with the crash site here as well. They have so many chests to work with, so much freedom of position as well, and no one really contested around them. It's huge for this qual week, don't get me wrong, but in the future, they have to be thinking about how do we change things up? How do we keep it consistent so it lasts long term?
I'm trying to think off the top of my head who on EU is going to fight them there. I don't think anybody else really necessarily opts into it. Maybe Floki, Clement, and co. But as we've seen, they have a tough time recently. I want to say when they get to the final rounds, but they didn't even make it here today. So you don't necessarily want to be fighting a team like Andalex off a drop. So like that's the catch-22, right? Like, okay, if we don't fight them off of drop, they're just going to absolutely raffle stomp the mid game and probably make most of the end games, right? But if we do go fight them off of drop, we're fighting Andalex, 4ZR, and X3s off of drop. And it's like both of those aren't necessarily the best of situations.
The only other trio that could come and form together again, the Pastoroki Ardent Pizza combination. I love going through Misty all the time, but they're all on separate teams now.
And you can actually see the bottom right-hand corner, our current team who's sitting in the 5th place mark, the Irish trio, Sean VP, trying to push through and be the rescue, utilizing that Shadowstone rotation, hopping all the way over to one of the alien bases, trying to just create any amount of information that he can to get to the reboot. And I mean, that cross-map rotation is so valuable because you're able to kind of just check and see, is anybody near me? Is anybody around? If not, you can pick a spot and just go. See the quick stat on the left-hand side. There's been an EU record 23 reboots for the first 3 games. I mean, it's nothing quite like over in NA West, but I mean, they're definitely pushing the pace.
NA West, you got a bunch of stragglers that are always somehow surviving, living in the shadows more so than any other region. But at the same time, they also have a very dominating type of trio that makes everyone hurt as they move around the map.
But the one thing to consider, I want to kind of put an asterisk on this stat, because one thing that we haven't discussed, there have been relatively significant changes to reboots over the course of this season, right? Like the reboot card timers went up to like 5 minutes, which in Fortnite effectively means, with how zones move, all that if you're in a relevant situation, you're probably going to be able to grab it, and it just makes it that much easier to go through. You also don't have to like go through and actually pick up the card. If you just walk over it, it ends up going into your inventory. So while we used to see five reboots per match on average in NA West, I believe before this season, the average per match in EU and NA East was like just above 3 and then just below 3 respectively. So now the fact that we've seen just below 8 per match in the first 3 matches just goes to show how much more effective it is for these players.
I think one big thing too to latch on to that is that, you know, the excess amount of vans that have also kind of appeared around the map, you can end up doing things a lot later with those 5 minutes. And perfect example of this is Hen in that second or first game, right? I think it was the third or second zone he lost his teammates, and then in the fourth zone he got that reboot all the way up in Misty. So that wouldn't have been possible for you. You're giving people lots of chances to be having that type of comeback potential. I'm wondering if these reboots are not only coming in more abundantly, but how late they're happening compared to before as well, just because of how many more vans there are, how much more time there is. Especially all these storm surge thresholds, right? The second one that comes through, there's always fights in the second, third-ish zone for those. And that fifth one, for the fifth zone surge fights, I feel like they always happen in the fourth and third zone. Everyone kind of knows their situation. That's where maybe all those reboots are coming. But regardless, now it's Analytic Squeeze, the first place Warriors with 4ZR, who've kind of gotten all the way towards the backside. I was wondering who's in control. Camp Cod and this entire island worth of loot. Looks like it'll be a head-to-head face-off. These guys will be able to rotate a little bit better all the way towards the left.
Man, I love this area of the map. There's so many resources down here between the fishing spots, the excess amount of metal, brick, wood. Like, you can find so much. There is so many chests too. If you just know where to look, you end up getting even a halfway decent roll. And that was before the addition of the crash sites around the outside. So, I mean, I'm a big proponent of it. And I forgot to mention with the reboots too. Yeah, the influx of additional reboot vans on the map. I mean, you add all of those 3 things and you can see, hey, it's basically been 4 times more reboots from EU so far over the course of this 6-game series. We'll see if that pace ends up keeping up. But right now, hopping back on over, match 3 winners, current second place, Energy, Benji Fishy, and Directa, and Mr. Savage trying to push through.
Benji getting challenged every single edit. It's not something you usually see. He has very clear, easy sight lines to at least drop down a few shots, but looks like they're caught in a sandwich type of position. Another trio also rolling in towards the dish station. I wonder where they stop. Or they're going all the way towards the south. Trees being cleared, no fireflies needed. They use the AR ammo, and that's kind of troublesome, I feel like, for Benji and Dread Savage. Vertically, they're so far down compared to all the teams around them, and now really have no vantage points or sneaky spots to roll into and maybe shoot between the leaves. It's tough, and now everyone has to move too.
And you can see Doretta there with the 0-0 in front of his name, recently signed to 0-0 Nation. Got to give him a shout out as well for calling out Energy and 100 Thieves. Little mishmash of orgs coming together to form what so far has proven to be one of the stronger trios in EU. And right now, they own a decent position on the map, but I feel like these mid-game zones are playing out a little more awkwardly as we see the reboot that happened over all the way on the northwest side, now coming down to Believer Beast, just trying to pick up whatever kind of spare loot they can, making sure they farm up those hard mats, because you know for a fact that anything on the interior of that circle is already going to be farmed.
Mid-game zones are also really well traversed by trios that have set plans. Like, you have a set mountain you go to, you're rotating a certain way to attack the zone. You got to remember, a lot of these teams, there's just 7 that have repeated together, right? A lot of them are new and only really have the Cash Cup type of experience, where they're trying to be adaptive. It's a different type of rotation every game. Even if it's the same zone, it could be a bunch of different teams rolling in, so you're always on the lookout. For teams like Andalex, who are rolling in from the south, they have a set plan, the same rotation every time. And that's working really great for them. For Styler, who we just saw in the feed, he might be trying to do that adaptive type of style, go for a different mountain. Reason picks them off. Any team that's just driving in willy-nilly, I feel like Kinzel, who's going right past her as well, might not have a complete set plan, but is trying to adapt overall. That's a very tricky thing to do in a set lobby, especially at quals where people are trying to go for a top 5.
Yeah, it's so incredibly different playing in a Cash Cup environment to these stacked lobby situations where every single trio on the opposite side of you, yes, even the trio who ends up placing 33rd at any given moment, if you aren't at your best, they are able to either take somebody away from you or potentially win a full fight over. And as we talked about, every single point matters. If you're in kind of that 3rd to 7th-ish range, like, yes, we can see 1st and 2nd potentially pull away, but right now, the drop-off pretty much happens right around 3rd place. So right now, if you're between 4th and 10th, you're 12 or 11th, you're 12 points within each other. That's nothing.
It's so close side by side. Quick shot on the left. Top 3 for 4ZR's team in every single game. And take this in, no other team is even averaging top 10 or hasn't hit top 10 in every single game. So these guys are so far ahead that they're in the top 3 echelon. Everyone else is kind of inconsistent overall, having maybe 2 really good games, but then missing out completely on top 10 placement.
Yeah, you're talking about that averages, however, most teams dropping a game to end up breaking down their averages. A lot of those teams towards the top have had 2 really solid games. We talk around that 10th place average. This is really where you get at least +7 placement points, plus the 5 at 24. It's at least a decent game. You generally get a couple elims going in there, but there's only 4 teams other than them averaging inside of a top 10 placement right now. Their average, like we talked about earlier on, 2.67. So it's a third, and a second being tossed in there. So it's pretty good. Like I said, one more pretty good game from them, and I would be comfortable putting them into the top 5. They've generally done mostly enough, but the one thing that always tends to happen in these lobbies when we look at those predictions, especially when we get to FNCS, it just creeps up just a little bit.
The lobby makes it interesting every time by itself, and usually defies stats while doing so. Coolest thing though on the side of Analex and why they have that top 3, I mentioned it before, it's having that set game plan. They, compared to everyone else, are just putting down different railroad tracks across the whole map and are using what they're learning every game to strengthen them up, rotating on the same paths over and over. Meanwhile, Peach Waffler, this is like the 4th time I've seen them in zone rotating. They're off-roading. They're not on a train. They're trying to keep things adaptive. It's okay, but then you run into Benji Savage. You didn't plan for this. How do you attack it? Overbuilding because you're not sure what to do, where to go. And still inside zone, they get height. Might look like a good position, but they've used so many resources to get here, and Storm Surge is active as what seems to be their trio as well. This is a very dangerous spot, I would say, for both teams.
Yeah, and you can see Andretta actually picking up the knock there onto Peach. Tiki getting one onto Wadzi. You can see that Storm Surge isn't going to be long for this world here with 72 players left remaining. Only 2 will need to go down. The confirmation should be coming over. Waffler not waffling here. I mean, honestly, he is waffling a little bit. As I said, that looks like he was going to stick to the AR shots, but throws a couple AR shots, added to wall, decides to take a potion. Like, you just need to pick and go at this point. The longer you wait, the more Storm Surge is going to cut into your resources. You're already a solo. The less resources you have, the less likely you are to clutch. And I mean, you get a great shot onto Mr. Savage, but other players had the opportunity to end up coming in and assist, and Dress will pick that one up. 2 Williams for them. They go to just below triple digits with the +5 points coming through as well, and that's a fantastic swing.
That's the first time, too, I've seen a waffle cooked by lightning and shotguns as well, so wondering if it is evened up in the inside as well in terms of consistency, but we'll find out in a few games if that cooking process continues to come from the sky. These guys fix things up. One of the coolest things about Benji's trio as well that I'm looking at, double harpoon rolling in with Benji and Savage, and Dread of the Tarper usually gets the other stuff handed to him and carries the heals. It's very good to have that breakdown there and allow Benji and Savage to kind of adapt and to get all the mats around them off the picks they're making and keep feeding Andretta as much as possible to keep those tarps alive. Remix, Xenolith, and Sean, although rebooted earlier on in this game, it looks like Remix might go down, gets a few pocket heals.
Stand by the campfire.
There's more corn. Okay, they're alive.
And baby go stand by the campfire. Like, I don't know. It was lit. It was weird. It seemed like Remix was lacking a little bit of map knowledge around that area. Like, you should know, if you're playing Fortnite at this level, I don't think there's any excuse for not knowing where consumable spawns are, where campfire spawns are. They're fixed. They happen every single game. Like, you should just be able to look at the map and know where those things are when you get stuck in those storm rotations area. So losing out on what could be a little bit of efficient HP here. However, they've already kind of rescued the game, at least from being a shambolic one, right? Already gotten the +5 points from the placement. They survived the first round of Storm Surge. They're able to get in the zone and get the next kind of like tick mark they have to check off is making it into that 4th zone. If they can get some real estate on the outside of 4th zone, then they have a chance.
Seems like whenever you're casting something, there's something that happens with heals in the zone. You know what I mean? Popping up bandages and such.
Don't put that bad juju on me, all right? Just because, all right, for those of you who aren't familiar, I make the climb into Champions League every season. It is very difficult because, well, it's a little bit easier now that I got the Shadow Floppers and the Shard Shotgun back. I can actually take occasional fights. But with the exception out of that, I lose fights at an astounding rate. I win maybe like 5% of my fights, even if it's like an even fight to start. I am just not mechanically good, but I know how to rotate and move around the map. So I hide in bushes, hide behind trees, fish in the storm, sit on campfires, whatever I need to do. So trust me, I know where all of those spots are. So anytime I see somebody running through, I'm like, yeah, they'll just hit the campfire here, maybe like rocket over here, just fish that thing in real quick and it'll be fine. And then watching the player just kind of panic a little bit, I'm always like, come on.
They got to know the tech. Especially in EU, I think these guys have so much experience running down south, any of these north teams. It feels like we just have a permanent south zone closure 24/7. You have to know every campfire spot because you've probably used it like 10 times already.
Well, and here's a real quick, easy way for any of the competitive players out there either struggling to get to the Champions League or you end up in this situation. The entire southeastern coast has campfires littered all over it, and they're about a half a boat's tank of gas away from each other, right? So as long as you end up hopping into one of those boats, now boats, no way of refueling them unless you bring a gas can along with you, which is inefficient timing-wise. But if you can get into a boat and just get along the outside, you can get up the river as well. The river has one about every 3/4 of a boat tank, so you need to swap your boat halfway up, but there's 2 boat spawns there. You're able to just heal up almost every single time. So when in doubt, head to the coast.
That's an impossibility in this zone, though. That's the big thing. And I think one of the most interesting things about Weeping Woods is having 2 different layers of engagement. You have the low ground blocked off by the trees and then the high ground. It's like 2 different games. Back in like the Stark Industries era, that could happen too. The new meta now, though, with the Fireflies and the vantage points and the evolution of Fortnite, there are no trees inside Weeping Woods. Sean VP finally down. This game ends. But there is no blockage from high to low ground.
Yeah, you would not believe your eyes if 10 million Fireflies just lit up the entirety of Weeping Woods, because it happens basically every single game. We saw it in match number 2. It's a great way for resource to dial, but if it doesn't occur, you end up just in this situation where you've ducked down into a valley and you don't have any really good ways to break a ton of these line of sights. Now, based off of where the zone is, we'll see half and half pulling off of the natural high ground and back down into it. So things are going to get a little weird. Observers, I want to keep an eye on who's able to actually confirm the high ground, because we see over on the opposite side right now, we see Tayson and Chappis could look to go for it, but it dropped right down on top of Jerky Kin's own rifle. So can they defend it?
Cosmo's on the left side, but they're taking a lot of damage, so I'm not sure if they're going to be able to hold it. This is a very mimic type of West Zone, though, for a majority of the server. They had to use launch pads to rotate last time. They kind of understand it's a very similar lay of the land. So people who've made mistakes or had a little bit of hesitancy might not have it now this time. There is one team that's so much higher than everyone right in front of Rifle. They might have control right there. Okay, Sapix rolling in with supreme speed. And Kinzel took a big shot to the body, so he had to stand down. They're actually still pushing down on this. They're not content with just having height. They want to eradicate anyone sharing the space, and Rifle panicking. He's going all the way down below. Tayson, Reason, and Chapik so much louder than so many other teams come in with a big boom.
And that was just a huge push. We talked about them being aligned on the opposite side. And the one thing, if your high ground isn't super well established and somebody has a line of sight with it, with a launch pad, they will go. Europe does not care. They'll challenge for height, knowing that if you secure it in 5th and 6th, it's basically a free ride to top 3.
And it's a dope 2-1 split they did to do that as well. I think they had one person stay back. That was Reason as Chapix and Tayson flew in. Rifle tried to pick up a little bit, got denied by the shots, and then he came in so fast after the fact. We'll see a complete switch up for Nas Thomas and Queasy, though. They're on ultimate low. Before they were on mid, and the game before that as well, challenging for height, obviously winning off of one of the other ones on having supreme high ground. New kind of area for them in terms of just these 6 games. And they're gonna have to get zone again. What are these guys doing with their positions? They keep getting this 6th zone move right on their front door, and they always have these peppers from Caddy Corner they make it just work every single time.
Yeah, they pop the pepper in order to try and proceed further up in points to get up that leaderboard and grant themselves a pass to the finals. I ran out of keywords to throw in there. We can see right now Falcon duo with Rezon just looking down on the rest of the lobby, surveying the land, trying to figure out where the best opportunity to strike, where the openings might be. But we'll flip on down there. GXRT, BL Steady, and Cammy. A little bit of space. They look and see what's up on high ground, but they're just above. You see that every single time. If a team goes to challenge the high ground, they always check where the second level is, and they have it. So right when the player pauses, they're in pump shotgun range.
And right now, everyone from the backside is doing max launch pads. They'll land right beside GXRT and Cammy's lair. In just a moment, this should get very, very hairy. All the way down below, it's Milan, Mitro, and Aryan who've actually made it off of spawn and are chilling. Queasy, though, goes all the way for height and lands it. Nikov's still alive. Looks like Benji's also popping off inside the feed. Eggman on the backside has been picked off so many games in a row, but this time, it's going to look like the same thing for him as he tries to move forward, too.
Cascading placement points. Hey, show me Benji Fishy. They went on a run last game. He's already gotten at least 2 here over in the side. I want to see what the boy has. Hot off of the duo's DreamHack victory right now. We're on board here again. The team who is averaging a top 3 placement. We can see why, creating tons of space. But as I say that, it's taken down. 4ZR taken down. All on the back of Andalex, the Falcon player, going to opt to disengage as our first place trio gets taken down. They're into the cascading placement points. Again, we said they needed a solid game to secure themselves the qualification. But still, Mr. Savage picking up an Elim as well. Benji Fishy and co. just going off. We don't necessarily see Andretta. Yes, there he is. 5 Elims for them already. 110 points. They're trying to take over the first place spot. Give me the Elims.
Punch up. A big chance in total points. Oh no, Savage going down actually, and now Andretta. He's going to be feeling the hurt on the front side of this tarp. No help there. Benji with a big charge pump shot, though. Takes down QB Master. But wherever QB is, 2 of his teammates will follow. Hiding in the shadows. Benji tossed around like a flopped flopper. No chance for him to be alive there. Fred finally takes him down, all up to Andretta to try to secure this type of big stream of points. It's top 13 for the moment. We can see what he does.
Yeah, Cammy got taken out right there on the full confirmed. 6 eliminations following their 11 from last game. That's tons of points racking up. Don't forget in round 2, it's +2. You can see Mitro picking up Fredoxy in the feed in the top left. You can see Andretta trying to fight for his tournament here, pushing through right now. You can see going to get taken out, unfortunately, but still just inside of the top 10. Mitro popping off on the low ground. That's his 3rd elimination on the backside of the zone. See if he's able to get some space, because still up on the high ground, you have Chapix, Tayson and co. raining down shots. Mitro picks up another one, but Andalex still just pushing forward, getting the solo clutch, not able to find the timing for the medkit, but hops into an old tarp, able to find the shot, but not quite able to find the second. Still needs a little bit of space as Mitro finally goes down, and Andalex goes down with their worst performance yet at top 6.
So impressive. Now it's down to Reason to take away all the points from height. Kinsell cannot go down. 4 HP finally taken out as Tayson wipes away the low ground. Milan somehow with Aryan Lee. One of the biggest and most craziest low ground situations. They survived it and are here at the end. 3 teams left with 7 players. Tayson and Chapix Reasons are one of the only teams that still have all their members alive. It's up to them to break things down, but they're so far away from low ground. These shots will not hit the builds as hard, not taking any risks. They want this to be a very clean win.
And I mean, it's been clean. Part of the reason why we weren't just sitting there watching high ground the entire time is because it's been this the entire time, is them just raining down rifle shots as the 3, the zone pulling back down, finally going to unleash Chapix and let him go down. But the second he does, he gets taken out, and all of a sudden, what should have been a comfortable victory royale is now a 2v2 where Reason has no effective HP. Tayson does have the 90 to be able to make a medkit play, but it is now basically turned into a 1v2 where you hope Reason gets a 1-shot where he drops down, and as I say that, Reason gets the 1-shot as he dropped.
He gets both? Reason! How? Insane! Chapix actually taking out Milan, so he actually ends up dropping down to the pressure of Reason. But imagine that, having 10 HP, the confidence still to drop down, land the big shot. This trio does it so aggressively like no other.
Yeah, and I was literally sitting there being like, oh, this should be 100% guaranteed, no problem. And then it turns a little awkward. Reason drops down and just turns it right back around. He says, I know what I'm doing. Pick up all the eliminations as well. That is a huge dub for them there. But we have to check out the leaderboards with only 2 more matches left to go. Zeke, Levin, Reese, update us.
Thank you, my very good and close friends, Shy Wager and Sundown, people that I do know the names of and would not mistake for anybody else. Wow, game number 4 down in the books. I mean, look, I feel, okay, like, if you've never seen competitive Fortnite, you've never heard the name Tayson a day in your life, you've been missing out, okay? And it's performances like this, you know? I feel like Tayson is just the god gamer, okay? It really, and a lot of times I feel like it almost doesn't even matter who you pair him with because he's gonna just do things. The fact that he's just in the game, Levin, just makes everyone else behave differently.
I can't say I told you so, but I did kind of tell you so. I mean, I knew it was gonna happen. I didn't know when, but I knew it was gonna happen. I'm happy to see these guys, winning this game, right? And you talked about Tayson. Yes, we can talk about Tayson all day long. I like to talk about Tayson all day long, typically. But Chapix was phenomenal that game. I know he went down there, but he had the majority of the eliminations. He was in phenomenal form, and I think this is what you can expect out of these guys. Look, I hope this now pushes them into contention to win the whole thing, because I want to leave here today, knowing that I got my prediction right, as always. Right?
There it is. Got him.
A couple more of these types of games and they won't be too far off. So a great game in that measure. But they weren't the only team that performed incredibly well, right? Reese and Alex as well was phenomenal.
Alex was phenomenal. He took his team from 16th all the way up to 6th as a solo. We saw 4ZR basically get jumped in on by another team while they were trying to do a pre-edit play. Kind of messed up, unfortunately, at that point. So they really, really clutched up big time for them. And look, this is kind of what they've been doing previously, right? They've really been capitalizing. That last game was actually the only game that they didn't manage to get a top 3 in, which is crazy. But still getting a top 6 when Alex was a solo, 11 additional points is huge for them.
Yeah, and of course, right, in the only game where they don't get, that's one of those top placements, they do something else that's spectacular. And in that, Andalex with that solo clutch was really, really good for them. It should be enough to hopefully keep them on top, and it is, right? They are still sitting in first place, and still with 130 points now. Second place, Andrea, Benji, and Mr. Savage, Queasy, and Nass and Thomas sitting there in third. Look, I'll be real, Reese, right? We all, as analyst casters, Zeke here as well as the big host and whatnot. We talk about our predictions and we, get excited about what teams are going to do well, and we banter each other a bit. I had told you guys that I had my team for next week predicted already, right? I told you guys that I know what team's going to win next week. That team was actually Andalex, but they've seemed to prove me wrong and they're doing it this week instead. I thought, Core 1, they'll probably have a bit of a quiet week. Then Core 2, they'll do this. But they decided to do it in Core 1 instead. So, hey, we're just having a great Andalex Fools and Squeeze performance. And I knew it was coming, but once again, I just didn't know when.
Didn't know when, and look, they've been absolutely performing, like you said. I don't know if they'd say they've secured a top 5 so far, but I'm pretty sure basically every single other one of our predictions are in the top 5 right now for all of us. So look, it's a good day for us, but it's even better day for them as they managed to keep their way up here. A good game that looked like potentially from Queasy, but it didn't end up being so. They were on such a good position on height that, didn't end up actually performing in that one in particular. Tayson's team obviously landed on them. Got a nice moving all the way through. If we look over to that next page, we're going to see exactly the teams who need to catch up going into the last 2 games. Arian's team has moved up into 16th. They got 17 eliminations and placed second there, just out of nowhere. They actually also found a llama off spawn that we saw there. So the one game, they've got some really good RNG off spawn. Clearly, they can capitalize on that. And that's actually made them overtake Vidil, Janice, and Noah, the team that they've been contesting against in every single game so far.
Yeah, look, I told you I'd find another way to talk about Tayson, and so I will. Sometimes it's just about having a little bit of patience, right? After game 2, they're sitting in 30th. Stinky, absolutely stinky. After game 4, they're sitting in 5th. Right, never give up, have a bit of patience, stick to your plan, maybe adjust your plan. In-tournament management is actually something that's really important, Reese, and that's actually one of the things you look at when you're talking about skill gap between pros, the ability to, adjust in the tournament, right? We see some teams come in with a plan, the plan doesn't work, they completely crumble. These guys, it seems like things probably weren't working the first couple games. Now we're in a position where they look like the team we expected them to be today.
Yeah, we saw them going down pretty early on in some of the earlier games when they pushed into stealthy. It didn't work out so well. Not sure entirely if they've not been doing that in these last 2 games, but a 5th and then a 1st, they're catching up on the leaderboard 100%.
That's right. Okay, guys, we got 2 more games left to go before we call it here in qualifier number 1. So for now, let's get back on the battle bus. We're going over with Sundown and Shy Wager. Didn't forget your names this time for the next game. Let's do it.
Names are hard, talking is hard, but Fortnite is much more difficult qualifying for the finals coming through out of Europe. It's all about the top 5, and with only 2 matches left, we've seen a couple of shakeups, but not right at the top. First and second have done a pretty decent enough to separate themselves from that line right now, currently sitting just 25 points above from 6th place. However, the battle from 5th down and even 4th onward, Chow Agent, is really close.
Very, very close. Difference of just 12 to 15 points, all the way down to even 12th place overall. The 70-point threshold goes all the way down to 15th, and 5th place is 94 points. So that's just making top 10, while a few of the teams don't. It's a huge swing, and it's definitely possible still as we head into the 5th game for top 5. I mean, it's anyone on that little side, the bottom, but all the way at the top, 4-0 and Electric Squeeze, they definitely have pushed that gap. It's huge now, kind of all the way towards the top. I think it's up towards 12 points that they're ahead of Andretta, Benji Fishy, and Savage. And the biggest thing is that they're never actually colliding inside these end games. And Alex is kind of taking a little bit more of a higher and passive layer with this team. Benji, Savage are going to dive into boxes, moving around the edges of these end game zones. And they start at the edge of the map all the way at Steamy Stacks.
Yeah, and that push being able to come through, I mean, largely it's been on the back of eliminations happening on that mid-ground tarp and being able to take those fights. As we see Jerky picking up a pair, Wings also finally returning the favor over there in the over in Southeast Stronghold, pardon me, as he's able to pick up Leo as well. So good job on that. And Shadow getting a little bit of revenge on the Irish trio with a knock on Deshaun. But realistically, right now, Shadow, the points board, thank you. Look at that leaderboard left-hand side. I would say that Andalex, 4ZR, and Xweez, like, they're through. Like 130 should be enough, unless like all of the absolute stars align. Based off of the math, they're pretty much 100% going through. I mean, they need literally 0 points in both the next games and the right set of teams to get points. After that point, things get a little awkward. Okay, can we show Mitro? Can we put Mitro on the camera? They're still fighting over there. Mitro himself got 11 eliminations. I don't know if this is like Fall Skirmish Mitro just possessed and turned into a demon, or what's going on. They got a 2nd place 17-point performance. So they went from having 6 points to having 60 points. He just got another knock onto Vidil. He is just obliterating my prediction, but I don't care. Give me the Liquid Mitro storyline. Show me what's going on over at Believer Beach, because again, they're 66 points. They went from nearly absolute dead last on the leaderboard to now the middle of the pack in 1 game. 17 eliminations is more than a victory royale's worth of points, and they got 2nd on top of that. That is absurd. It was 26 placement points and 34 elimination points out of them, and they look like they just wiped off some of the best off-spawn fighters in the game for the 2nd round in a row. So while, yes, the contestant over there is awful, if they make it out, they could play.
I didn't know that, you know, the leaderboard itself had a reboot van, because these guys hit it that last game 100%, definitely. And right now, it's not just, you know, the beach that has a lot of beef. It's also the burbs. Fast Roki going down. Aqua already taken out. CRR about to get deleted too. This means if Mitro wants to get any more eliminations, they're going to have to probably happen inside the end game. They're not going to be able to bully with their POI side by side. But I'm still wondering what happened in Believer Beach, because right now I think Mitro took out Vidil. It started things off by hitting up Taysom, but there should still be reason left over, or vice versa. Maybe Janice, okay. Yeah, Janice left over. There we go. You know, you have a habit of saying certain names side by side, or you like attribute them to certain POIs. I think I made the mistake between Janice and Taysom before already, but yeah.
I honestly want to say I'm a little bit grateful that I don't have to deal with that after the massive team shifts that have come out, and the fact that so many of these teams are amalgamations of previous trios, where it's like, hey, we swapped 1 person and then the other 2 remain the same, or it's just like, oh, here's all the 3 from that, and that's 3 eliminations over to him. Mitro picking up Janice right away. He has an epic pump, legendary SMG, 5 chug splashes minis. They're gonna let him run. Mitro is going to run, and honestly, this is a storyline I'm moderately interested in if they can keep going with it, because after dropping, like we talked about it, how generally you can only really have 2 bad games. They had 3 okay-ish, like 3 bad games, then 1 really, really, really good game. Can they keep it rolling?
They were kind of outside in terms of if the top 10 was kind of like, you know, a room that people were in. They were outside the door, just kind of peering in, seeing what was up. After these, elims off of spawn. They jumped from 66 to 72 points. And there's kind of like a 5-way close tie, 5 points separated. We got Fast Roki's team, who just got taken out, but 77 points. They're in 11th place. All the way down to Fullnet's team, who we just saw get a few eliminations. We're at 71. So now they're in the conversations with a bunch of trios who've been watching, who've been really active on the map. They've kind of erased their first 3 bad games, and they're looking good to just have another absolute pop-off performance. Some big pots. Chuck Splash is still available for Milan to pick up. I want to tune in with Mitro, though, as soon as we get, especially into that 6-7 zone, if they're still alive, to see what they can do. Last time they were really good, Sundown, because as soon as that 6th zone moved, they had the first tarp on low ground all the way there as it was moving, and they held it the whole way through. This time, I hope they can get that position again and capitalize, because we might see 17 more eliminations right there.
Yeah, and note, we've already had 8 trios go down. 1 more trio falls, and that's 5 points coming over. There've already been a couple of trios who are on the top half of that leaderboard who have gone down, so they're going to close that distance. All of a sudden, the delta, if you picked up no points this game, I'm looking at you, Aqua, CRR, and co. And then Mitro, they've already picked up 11 points if they're just able to outlast 1 more trio. Like, that's the swing. They're still in striking distance. If they put together a really solid game, I wouldn't be surprised if game number 6, it's all on the line for them. But right now you can see another trio who's pretty much right on that line. They're looking at 8th place, 85 points. Again, we're talking about the line, how tall you have to be to ride the ride. Top 5 in this qualifier, top 5 in next qualifier, goes straight to the finals. You go to EU, you qualify for the Grand Royale, you get to play for all of that prize money in the biggest region in front of absolutely the entire Fortnite community. That's what's up for grabs. If you don't get it in this qualifier, next qualifier, then you go into a pool with 66 other trios and you got to win a game in what is going to be some of the most stressful days of Fortnite, not only for the players, but I assume for the casters as well, because we all know just how hyped those reboot rounds turn out. As right now you see Hellfire getting taken down and Jerky trying to go on the aggressive here. They're going to grab the body, pull it back, get the confirm, no shakedown coming through, but that's some great Swarm Surge efficiency.
Now, what Rifla, Jerky, and Kinslow are doing right now is kind of the opposite of majority of teams in the lobby. They're looking for security inside this top 3, inside the top 5. If you're above triple digits right now, the 100-point threshold, and you're getting more, that's just securing your spot there for the Game 6 to be and remain in the top 5. They now have 112 points. That placement will also be coming through very, very soon. It'll be Flois desperately trying to make an attempt to get some damage back on the board, but I don't think he's going to be able to penetrate this box. 3 people staring down with pumps and charges, looking at you, waiting for you to make a move. 112, this is huge for this team. And if they stay alive all the way until that 5th, 6th zone and even go down there, that's a huge swing in placement overall, and they should still solidify their spot inside the top 5.
Already the 2 elims coming through will be a nice little +4. Again, 1 trio drops to another +5. Quick stat left-hand side. Rifle's trio has the most elims, 14 versus players in the top 10. So they're really doing a good job of picking up those elims against the players. Been able to score points, so that's the reason they're in there. They're able to make it in those late game scenarios, and you can see why they execute these fights so well. And you just can't really take man-down situations and man-down fights aggressively against a charged shotgun. It's one of the things that does incredibly well, where if Rifle just holds it out and holds left click, what are you going to do? Open a wall and do a charge? Like, no.
We just saw that attempt on the left right there. An instant ramp drop down, got big bot, then replaced by that full charge pump. And now again, round 3. Rifle on the charge. Go for it. Replace. Peek. I dare you. Nothing going to be able to do down. It's too much. Way too much damage, way too much pressure. The hits is there.
And you can see he's playing it so well, sitting on the backside of the cone. Because again, worst case scenario, what? He dinks you with a couple pellets with his pump. But all you have to do is catch a shoulder to end up getting that big 100+ tag with that epic plus shotgun. So you're able to back it off. But as we say that, you can see his teammates have gotten their shields chipped down. And there's a little bit of pressure in rifle fire coming from a team over on the side. And this hasn't necessarily been the cleanest of executions. You should have felt they'd been able to take this 3v2 a little bit more cleanly. But now rifle fire coming in, and oh boy, the ramps coming in. That was some old school, like chapter 1 season 4 ramp rush to take it out. Trulex gets a knock on the Nikov head, gonna get the confirm, and that was really nice.
Teams from both sides. The Loop Boys are here too. Third party City Central rolling in, basically. There's another team coming in from Weeping, seeing what's up. So, I mean, Rifle Jerky, Kinzel, they're kind of at the safe of this big bank of players in the middle of all these builds, in between so many teams with hard mass that are already deployed. Oh no, the floor drops though. Someone's cracked the combination. Money's overflowing, falling out. The points are here up for grabs, but Rifle does find his footing. Jerky, low HP, needs to shield up, do something. 6 chug splashes, but he's being very greedy with them. Does not want to pop them down just yet. It's the Loot Boys who have a big base, who are just shooting any floor they see. And from a high ground position, Rifle, Jerky, Kinzel, they go all the way down low. They're forced here, and they deny a couple sight lines, which is huge for them. Finally can pop these splashes, maybe, or maybe just the big pots to get back into this game.
Yeah, living up to Movimientos Vida. Movement is life. Just trying to stay moving, not get pinned down in the same spot. Didn't want to use those chug splashes till they were all together, but know that if they were up on the high ground or up on the mid ground, one of those trios could potentially push down on top of them. So instead, doing a great job disengaging. And there's a massive lull in the action because only one player is being threatened by Storm Surge right now. And the next trio who drops misses out on +5 points. You don't want to miss the +5. It is that chunk that comes through is kind of what separates you from deciding whether, hey, that game was absolutely awful, or at least we got the 5 points coming through, and every single point ends up mattering. And boom, just like that, Ram goes down, and his trio will end up missing out on the points. Storm Surge turns off +5 to everyone in the lobby, and it's going to be a nice little sigh of relief knowing you can play a little bit looser.
All the way up to the 120s for Benji's team. Also getting very close to solidifying their spot inside the top 5. You have to remember, though, a lot of those teams from 6 all the way down to top 10, they're in the 90-80 point threshold. A few of them already got knocked down. But for those alive, they're trying to get to triple digits right now. At the end of this game, maybe be near 110 points in total. That'll be a very good line to end off on. At the same time, Mitro, Milan, Arya, Lee, they're a little bit behind overall on points, kind of near the 70 mark. Yeah, 77 now totally. If they can somehow gain 30 points here, definitely in contention for the top 5 in a comfortable way. If they end up at 90 as well, they'll have to have one more big swing of a game. But so far, 17 elims, second place, the momentum's on their side.
You can see their left-hand side, a single game point record in game 4 with 60 points. It's just bonkers. Absolutely bonkers performance coming through there. I mean, you can see now just posted up, knowing that as long as they're able to give themselves a chance, able to get in the zone, doing a little bit of the bush camping tactics, which is totally fine. You're not expending mats. If somebody ends up rotating late, you get the opportunity to get the jump on them. And there is very little to tell and give you away. There's a little bit of motion, a little bit of sound cue, but that's it. So they're playing safe. They're playing smart. You're talking about kind of looking at those average points. So right now, 5th place coming into this match was at 94. So it's a little bit right around kind of 23, 24 points per game or so. You can round it up to 25 to be safe, right? So you need to be at 100 to be inside of it. That means roughly for 6 games, it'll be 150. Though, however, currently it'll be a little bit below that. So you can assume maybe like 145-ish will be that guaranteed safe qual. The question is, does it end up sneaking up and going through? And again, that's just based off of the averages, assuming all the teams accumulate the same points. But at any point in time, when those top teams can start gobbling up those extra points, they start taking elims, they don't necessarily need those points, and they make the margin at the middle of the table a little more and more difficult. As we see Tayson pick up a key elimination or a key knock there on the Kinzel, they were pretty safe. So I wonder how that happens.
I think Sinet got Jerky down right as that all started. So it seems like third parties got the best of them from all sides. Many different teams taking bites out of that trio. Mitro walking in, we know his position. All the way towards the west side. A few teams around him. If they go a little bit even further south, might be better. But so far, all these zones keep pulling west, west, west until those end game circles start to start. Big thing, though, I want to know, because Sona, you're talking about it, right? The things these top 5 teams need to solidify their quals, the 145-ish points. Where are they? How are their positions looking, their loadouts? How many points are there at after that big elim swing in the early game fights? Because right now we could be watching in this game people qualify for the finals. Not even in game 6, but in game 5. And they're giving Milan that huge, legendary lever action shotgun. That's going to be big for speed. It looks like it'll be Mitro and Milan pushing boxes, Aryan on the backside.
Yeah, interested to see if they have a charge at some point in their loadout. Don't need to go back and check it out, because often we been seeing trios generally prioritize having at least one charge, as it gives you so many options when it comes to these box-to-box fights, at least backing people down. But the levers are something we've only really seen on particularly aggressive players when they want to be diving in, because that rate of fire and this reload ability is just so effective. The lever action shotgun being able to push down, but Tayson hops out for even just a second and boom, loses most of his shield. To see what they ought to do, they're going to top off with a chug splash instead of using the big pot that he has in inventory. That's because he needed the white HP, and this is a little bit of a tough rotation. They should be fine, but if they do draw particularly fire from this team, they could make their life very difficult. And Razumi is actually playing a little bit of possum here to see if he can get an angle, but we're going to flip on over. And Rifle, somebody who's not playing possum, he's just straight up stuck in. That was disgusting. That was so good. I don't know if like people are aware of how good mechanically you have to be in order to get a ramp down in that situation and then also cover it so you're not able to then immediately be chased. But that was one of the better disengages and quick thinking we've seen in a while on stream.
Did he go back and hit the same pad again? Or was that a new one? Rifle, it's just stunting on these teams. It's 3v1, and the only damage he's really taken is from the storm.
Yeah, and he's trying to create a situation we can disengage. I was about to say, he does have that shadow flopper, but he needs to be careful about using the effect inside a box. The phase does have a cooldown on it there, and unfortunately did it in the wrong direction. If he could have gotten to the launch pad, he could have taken off into the air and been able to utilize the strategy to kind of just seed your fall immunity away and then get into the zone. But unfortunately, the fancy footwork and his blue suede shoes are not going to be enough. Nobody's dancing tonight.
Oh man, looked like a boxer in his prime for a second there. Ultimately knocked out though. Look at the zone and the way people are gonna have to attack this now. The west side is gonna be so scrunched up with teams from the north and the south pulling in. Everyone from the east as well, when they're pushing, is gonna be at a traffic jam. The center is gonna be unclaimed, uncontested. That'll make launch pads free and easy. Anyone that's kind of moving in to half and half is not gonna have that much trouble in the midland, the no man's land of things. But right now, any mis-edit, ForZR's there looking, and many players like ForZR are going to be in these positions, box to box, looking to punish anyone right now. It's going to be very scary for any team rotating and just getting in the zone.
Yeah, it's going to be a tough situation, particularly, again, we talk about it. Fourth zone looking in the bottom right-hand corner, 40 seconds until the fifth is revealed. Real estate around the outside is going to be very prime, and Storm Surge is also going to come into play. So flipping through some of the teams who are below Storm Surge, we know our current leaders are, but they're a little bit less under the pressure of having to have an amazing game. And just a horrid launch pad coming out there. That's an execution mistake. Sometimes you can't afford to have. They went for a low pad, but the grade right there was not enough, and it's going to end up costing them a lot of HP. You can see Benjinko dropping down. Arian Lee picking up an Elim and Co. When these guys end up getting safe, want to go back over to Micho and them, because that's another Elim. That's a fourth for their match. If they can storm in and get placement points and get in the cascading round, we've seen how much damage they can cause into the end game. See Mr. Savage right now, 91 damage above that threshold. Only 2 trios will be threatened with 4 players there. 20 still left on their feet. A Slovan Co. get completely eliminated out. Storm Surge does tick on. As we said, 4 players will be impacted, so not too much of a threat. Cammy does get knocked by Quinton. 2 players go down there. 3 players go down. Only 1 more left, and that's the full Cammy split trio being taken out. 1 more player goes down. Waffler it is, and we have our Storm Surge turning off. 1 more trio to drop before the cascading placement points, and match 5 is heating up to be a little bit of a barn burn.
Everyone just placed in a ring. No one yet ready to take the throw into the center, but now it's time for people to actually move to the zone instead. Queasy, popping, spicy peppers again. I mean, this just looks like textbook rotations with these guys over and over, and that backbling absolutely accurate for the moment, because these guys are going to be speeding through every single trio in front of them, basically just hit the zone line in a matter of 5 seconds. They're already so far away, but they're in now. The question is, are people going to wait? Are top teams like Anas Thomas and Queasy going to let anyone else take height and then go for it? Or is it going to be a mid-low ground game? We've seen so many teams pick up double-digit eliminations over and over again at this position.
And now we're into this cascading placement points. Top 17 coming through, 1 point per trio being eliminated right now. You can see Thomas and Austin Queasy trying to push through. Still 45 players up on their feet, which means that 7th zone surge could potentially end up playing a big part. Depends on where these zones end up rotating, because with Sludgy Swamp, while there's not a ton of like massive changes in verticality, the ones that occur, they're just obnoxious, right? They're these small little hills that you can't quite build the grid space on. And it can end up impacting a lot, particularly when so much is down on top of each other, but somebody who's impacted a lot the past couple games, Mitro, Milan, Arian Lee, trying to get through, trying to put more than just a cash cup victory in their hands, and they're currently sitting on 4 eliminations, and Zone is pulling right past them, Chayo.
This is just the best situation for Mitro, Milan, and Arian Lee. We were just kind of in this zone near Weeping, but since the entire zone started there, everyone removed the trees. This time, those trees are still up. Anyone like Mitro who likes to fight a lot will not have any pressure from layers beside them or above them. They can just focus on what's ahead and below. That is huge for anyone that has any type of golden shotgun. We know this team does, and Mitro has that epic pump as well. They move all the way forward like they did before. It looks like deja vu. They're slightly higher in elevation as well, but this is where they can really get active.
Tell me, is it deja vu? But instead of wanting me, they want all the eliminations right now, trying to pick up absolutely everything they can. They don't care about the calls. They don't care about the spotlight. They say, Sundown, we want the points. We want to play in the finals. We've heard too much of people talking smack, and Mitro is here. Epic pump, legendary SMG. We've seen this story before. Savage picks up an Elam. Andalex picks up an Elam. Them making the end game might as well secure the qual for the top 2. We know they're through. Up on the high ground, Razumi is able to actually back them down a little bit. Wolfie trying to trade out. Tasted with a disgusting headshot there. Wolfie gets absolutely obliterated for the cost of Rezon. Razumi also gets taken down. It's 5 Elams for Tayson? What?
This is actually a huge thing to keep in the pocket for Tayson. 113 points is not enough to solidify a top 5. He needs to get even higher right now, and he's moving with it. At the same time, Thomas, Nas, and Queasy faded high ground to be a thing to actually take. Get 3 teams colliding. I think I also saw Benji go down in the feed, so all these big eliminators we've been seeing for the past 3 games aren't here now. Who will take the role of getting all these big points? Savage still alive on low ground with Q-Roll right beside him. He's popped those cabbages. The emotes have been played. The heals are in play as well. Now it's time for him to really get this shotgun active.
Yeah, he has to go. He's below the surge. There's only one other trio who's going to be getting hit by it. He only needs a tag, but again, every single point matters. They've only been able to pick up 2 extra placement points here from the cascading ones. 37 HP. He survives 2 more Storm Surge sticks, 1 more Storm Surge stick. The zone ticks him as well. Could this be the end? Mr. Savage, not quite savage enough. Storm Surge will take him down. Keeping an eye, looking across. Is Mitro still up on his feet? Yes, he is right there in the middle of the low ground. Give me him. Give me the liquid player. Give me the veteran trying to push and take it all away. Long goes down to Xerox, but they're into the top 13. You can see they already have the 4 eliminations. Mitro wants to get wall to wall. He's looking to find edits on the backside of the zone. The Loot Boy trio up on the high ground. This is the second to last game. Top 5 is all that matters, and who can establish it as Arian Lee loses the entirety of his shield there for only a quick little hop. He's going to regret that reposition.
Might just be up to Mitro with the HP that he has. We're tuned in with Thomas right now outside of a wall. Looking to face against a whole trio and getting sandwiched from the back as well. The roof isn't safe either. It's a blender, and these men just got juiced completely. No chance whatsoever. We tune back in with any other team that has a chance to kind of survive. Pushed all the way forward. Iron Lee's down. It's all up to Mitro. Alive by himself, takes down Chapix. Low ground. Here we go. 2 Elams for now with boxes. They're all his all around, except for that brick one on the left. He's looking for it. He knows where the player's going to come from. Big beams. He tracks Reason through the walls and takes him out. That's the 3rd. Now elevation, kind of tricky, but no problem for Mitro. He lands another. This one, Harry, Steve into the storm. Backwards defense, now up top. It's not enough for him to handle, but what a display all the way towards the top 5.
Top 5 with 6 eliminations. That's another performance pushing it towards them. But this is a team who's walking the walk. They're talking the talk, and they're picking up another qualification here. They're going down, but that is in 4th place. They're going to be happy. Hen, Refsguard on the low ground. The Luke Boy trio up on the high ground. 3v2v1 with the solo sandwich in between it. XC Maxine's going down. The question is, can Hen and Refsguard rip away a victory royale they desperately need? Points are at a premium right now. Hen gets it started off, and back-to-back Refsguard gets it started off. The charge in the back of the zone, you heard it tink, and it tinks true. Takes him down. Hydro trying to take it out, drops down, finds one. Is he going to be able to connect on the other? Hydro! No, he gets denied a brilliant shot from the first one, but Hen says cluck, cluck. 5 eliminations, he takes it down. Him and Refsguard combine all the way through for 8 total Elams, the victory royale. And I just know we basically saw Andalex and Co qualify. That's going to be enough. The rest of the leaderboard, Shio, is going to be an utter clown fiesta.
I mean, that everything's up in the air. The movement in that last play from everyone involved is insane. Mitro is just popping off against people he can't even see. What we need to see is what the desk has to say about that one. Zeke, Levin, and Reese, that was amazing.
So much energy here in EU. We got Mitro, we got X-Squeeze making it into those final moments. The solo efforts across the board are next level. You know what, Levin, for one moment, I thought, is Ref Guard gonna lose this 1v2? There's no way. And I hesitated, but then Ref Guard said, no, Zeke, listen, it's me, dog. Come on, man, don't worry about it. I got this. My bad, dude. Look, you know, I'm not a perfect person. All right?
Disagree.
Yeah, I have my reservations about that opinion, but the most important thing there is Hen was able to win it out, hit the crucial shots. I didn't think Luke Boy was going to lose that, right? You typically don't see a team in their position up on height lose that, but Hen does what Hen wants, 5 eliminations or whatever. Yeah, what a finish, right? And you expect that from Hen. Even beyond that, Mitro's clutch. Look, we were talking about Mitro off air, Reese, and this is what I've wanted to see from Mitro, right? He's had his problems with the teams and the play style, whatever. But all I've wanted is to see him in a position where he can show off his raw talent in endgames. Finally, there's been a bit of a platform to do that. And this is what you get, raw entertainment, the purest form. That was a really good game. Going into this last game, there's a lot on the line for a lot of these teams now. I just want to see more of that. Just more Fortnite, pure Fortnite.
I think to quote you, it was specifically, why is Mitro not the best player? I want to see Mitro being the best player. And like, it was close. Like, it was close. We're seeing some super sick stuff from him, in particular that game and obviously the previous matches as well. And that's going to, I'm sure, move them up massively on the leaderboards too.
That's right. We'll take a look at leaderboards in just a moment. With one game left, we got to see how things are shaking out. But first, let's talk about Queasy and company. A recently formed trio for this new season. We're seeing the shakeups happen all around all these trios, but these guys are performing way better than I could have ever imagined.
Yeah, and they've impressed me so much, right? They've just been so phenomenal. I know Shayo picked them to win out the whole thing at the start of today, but they just have looked like the best team in the region, right? Early doors, of course, right? But so far in the competitions we've seen, they've just been phenomenal, Reese.
Yeah, and the team switch-ups to me have been super interesting because Thomas HD and Nas, traditionally a lower to mid-ground team, and then they're pairing up with Queasy, a guy who you know is just the height man. Outside of Aqua, you're like, right, Queasy is going to be the guy going for height. He's the one that's always been the IGL, that team, super focused in his previous seasons on just height. And it seems like, you know, they were able to capitalize in previous seasons on non-height plays, but not as much. So it's a bit of a contradiction picking him up, but it seems like now they can play basically any role, high ground, low ground, mid ground, doesn't matter what it is. And look, that kind of fluidity has put them into third so far.
Yeah, and you can see they're tied in third, right? Of course, you know, with 1-3-1 points. And the big thing about it, right, moving forward on top of that is, you know, they sort of almost lost something, right? In terms of when you replace Queasy, when you replace Flick with Queasy, sorry, you do lose a bit of firepower. I think Flick is definitely the better fighter in that sense, but they've added an extra bit of dynamism where they can now play on high ground as well as, you know, a dominant mid and low ground style. So definitely, you know, a winning formula right now, and you can see it's getting them ever so close to being able to solidify that top 5 spot. Let's take a look at the next page though, because a lot of these teams going into this last game are going to look to do the spectacular, right?
They are.
You're going to come out and you're going to look to do, you know, the absolute spectacular, trying to push your way somehow, will your way into the top 5. It's not going to be easy. It's not going to be easy, but if you're Hen, if you're Escon, if you're Trulex, you're going to think to yourself, well, look, I got no better option, right? Like, I got to just go out there and look to have the highest point game possible.
You got to remember, qualification right now, the threshold is 118 points. There's a single team below that, which is Rifle's team on 117. So the threshold is so close. There's a big kind of drop off of almost 20 points into 7th, then loads of teams close. So whatever we're kind of looking for, those teams who are kind of underneath 7th right now, 7th and below, have to basically, I don't want to say just win a game, but they need to pop off big time. Remember, Victory Royale, 30 placement points, adds a couple, sprinkle some eliminations on there as well, and there's a lot of potential. So whoever wins this final game, I mean, you know, it could definitely push them up into a top 5 slot, qualifying them straight for finals.
All the drama. That's what you want, right? Qualifier 1, you know, you want to start off at the very best, the most entertaining, the most exciting until semis and finals, of course.
That's right. I've got my eyes on Seti, Cammy, and Teak. 12th place, 90 points. I mean, hey, the Victory Royale by itself, even if they just got 1 elimination, right, that's enough to put them in the top 5. But we'll see how this all unfolds. One game left here in Europe in qualifier number 1. So let's throw it back on over to Sundown and Shy Wager to bring us home.
One more game, and the question is, will it be one more point, one more elimination, one more victory royale? What will be the difference, Shio, between a team walking straight to the finals or dropping in to the victory royale fest of the semifinals?
Who will step up and actually carry their team across that finish line, because there's so many people running side by side, and it's one last game, 25 more minutes of top-tier European competition. Game 6 is upon us, and here we go at Believer Beach, one of the craziest comebacks we've seen to date by a team. It's by Mitro, Milan, and Aryan Lee. The first 3 games, nothing. Now, double-digit elims, top 5s. They're thriving. They're alive.
And Noah Riley ends up actually taking shots in from the crash site high ground, so he's coming in at slight disadvantage. Mitro gets the priority drop. I just wanted to say, I'm so happy tuning in for this off-squad fight. This is what I've wanted to see the entire time. Just 2 of the strongest fighters in Europe going absolutely toe-to-toe. But the one thing we're going to spend pretty much the entirety of this game talking about is tournament management and the leaderboard. Which teams in the top 5 have been eliminated? Who needs to do what? Because sometimes, as we saw over in NA West in the very last qualifier, winning the last match isn't enough. Sometimes you need to win with a certain number of elims. And if Riverson and his trio had gotten one singular more elimination, they would have gone through, they would have qualified. Will we see this on the left-hand side? You can see there's the current top 5. There's a decent drop-off of 4th to 5th. 5th and 6th are right on top of each other, and then there's a gap there. So we're going to be keeping an eye in particular on QB Master, Zynie, and Fredoxy, as well as everyone above them, and then Riflet, Kinzel, and Jerky. But how can we not tune in for what's been going down over at Believer? We need to see the results of this off-spawn fight, because the reality of the situation, Shio, is it's resolved nearly before people have touched their feet in the past, but now everyone's a little bit more cautious.
Yeah, look at the difference when there's just one game left on the line. Literally, sometimes Aryan Lee's not landed and Vidil's down, or Mitro's taken out. This time, fully shielded, looting up, farming. I don't think I've seen Mitro swing his pickaxe in the first 3 minutes of the game. He just gets chests and elims to get those mats up, but now it's a lot more strategic. They're going around, getting the space. And I've always kind of wondered what the better split is, who gets, you know, a better slice of the pie, the hotel side with the pier or the basketball court in the back houses, because clearly these guys do have that split going on right now.
Neither, you both lose. That's just straight up what happens. Like Believer Beach, when split down the middle like that, and then also having teams around the outside, we already saw that the stealthy team, though I will say Wings and Co, who are generally the more aggressive one, we saw Wings get knocked right off in the feed. Not sure if they were the trio, was full elim there, but you can already see the stealthy team is already moving. There's a team in Coral Castle, there's a team in the crash site south of them, there's 2 trios over to the west and northwest of them. So like splitting Believer Beach, you're not going to get that same epic charge shotgun legendary SMG onto Mitro. You're probably not going to see that big mid and end game carry that generally falls out of them. So right now we got a nice little split. We're going to take a peek in on our current 5th place team, who really hasn't necessarily seen a ton of action, but as I say that, our 6th place team, they're in a fight, and they're fighting for the tournament right now.
Usually on fights are very good when they're defensive. Kinzel's in a very good spot in the basement, but at the same time, Jerky and Rifla are upstairs in a little bit more of a risky spot. Very good job at getting those walls down above the cone to keep control of this entire lair in front of Kinzel. But it is a 2-1 split currently. Rifla saying you can get any shots down on the Huddy, but nothing really connects. And now they're back at their tried and true nice bread and butter type of strategy. Just replace everything, keep things on one layer, usually low ground, plus a basement if available. And they have that drop down at this burger shot, but at the same time, you can't waste all your moments here. I don't think there's a big chance for damage, mats, or even a good position on the east side of this entire zone. With the Fireflies drop down too, this is going to be very tricky. Luckily, it's the outside builds as Jerky pops over, and these guys look to move out.
Yeah, they need to get in a car and go. They just make like just get out of dodge. Doesn't matter. I was going to try and think of an analogy, but the situation is too stressful for it. You can even see not wanting to like just rely on line of sight. They're throwing down builds too, which yes, it's just wood. Yes, it's very easy to farm up efficiently, but that's just the level of care that's going in. They know that, hey, we can't let any stray bullets coming through cover our six at absolute all the times. And we got a number of trios skirting around the map right now.
Everyone's moving fast. They want to get positions first. You saw it on Believer Beach. That was kind of, is the word an allegory or maybe just a representation of how everything's going to be looking for this game. People at a standoff, no one making decisions first. And when that happens, if you get to a position before everyone else and the zone still comes to you, you end up just winning the game, winning the entire war of attrition on mats, on positioning as well. I mean, once somebody won AR bullets for taste and they can keep firing shots off till the 5th zone, they get a refresh and they keep going it all the way until they take it home, but they need to get to a good spot first.
Allegory, great word, colloquial metaphor for those of you who don't know. So definitely up there, though. I don't know how colloquial that engagement over at Believer Beach really has been. It's been more violent than anything else. But speaking of violence tasted, choosing violence and choosing that charge shotgun every single time. And hey, why not? Let's just put two of the best teams in the EU right on top of each other in the deciding game while they're currently in 2nd and 4th and definitely couldn't upset the other qualifier. That doesn't seem like a situation that's spicy at all.
Guess has a front row seat with Cruel on this as well. They're kind of just like looking over at each other like, those dudes at the, the corners of the party just watching the fights break down. Like, they're not sure what to do with this. They might just want to take control of that bridge and hold it there for all the metal. Both these teams also rolling in vehicles. They end up having a car crash to get those builds up and going. But Mitro, ardently, and Milan, they moved over to Pleasant. We saw that happening. It was a big fight that did break down over here. Tuning in, I want to see if they have any eliminations, because if that's the case, you got Mutual already rolling with momentum off the rip. That's going to be huge, but no, they're still ice cold for the moment. Arianly's taking a little bit of damage. I wonder if they've done damage at all to anyone, because I haven't seen any shots land, even off spawn.
Yeah, I think the disengage happened almost immediately off of spawn because, again, Noah Riley took about 40 damage on the way in with the pistol, so they just seeded the hotel near immediately. But the thing is, we haven't seen a Storm Surge plan out of this team, right? Because they either get eliminated off of drop or have clean swept off of drop. And in the game where Mitro had 11 eliminations when there are still 50 players up, I promise you he was never worrying about Storm Surge at any point in time in that match. So now kind of looking around, a team that started really hot, Zako, SC, and Slove have slowed down, but they're still right around that kind of contention range at 99 points, equal with Arianly, Mitro, and co. So they kind of did it in reverse order. They had a really hot first 2 games and then slowed down in the back 3.
And Rifle was the one who was targeting a lot of top 10 teams. For me, SD's been the one going for the bottom of the board, at the north side of the map. Lets that stealthy fight finish and then picks up the scraps for the teams in 20th all the way to 30th. While they're moving in, everyone on the north side seems kind of strapped for points, sometimes unconfident on what to do. That's happening there too. Milan going for a big fly all the way up top. Actually a fight. This is insanity. It's inside a zone that's moving. Gotta remember, not only do they have to win this fight, they have to go all the way east, and Aqua has picked up a big refresh, as well as CRR, to get their shields all the way up. They're pushing that Freezy. This is insane.
They need Surge. That's it. They just straight up know. They're like, we have to take a fight. We're going now. And they can use the side stream, the slipstream, whatever we're calling it. They can use it to get on top of their opponents without having to use any of their other resources, which they're incredibly limited on. There's a launch pad and no other rotation tools. So they're just getting whatever shots they can, knowing that they haven't really been able to hit anyone. And look at that service right there. Some fantastic driving from Milan, scooping Mitro out of the air. Gonna go pick up Arianly as they head towards zone. And the thing is, because they left that fight first, they know that team is behind them, right? So if they're able to kind of track that team's line to zone, they should be able to potentially poach them for Surge. We'll get a warning on the right-hand side, but the benefit is now, with a little bit of aggression coming out, all of a sudden what was a packed Surge game with 85 players up is now down to 77. 8 players have fallen. Aqua picking up at least 2 for himself before getting knocked on that side. And the situation, though, hasn't super changed for most of our teams in contention.
But this situation is going to get even more puzzling for Arianly, Mitro, and Milan. You're talking about, yes, they can hold these guys at the back. Zone's pulled all the way down towards Lazy, even further towards the east. And we saw Benji. We saw so many teams like Taste driving early. Even Ziny, Fred, and QB Master, who are our 5th place team so far, have gotten in the zone and picked up secondary, tertiary positions. Metro's on a clock right now. Not only do they have to get Surge all the way at the back over there, but they still have to get a big position inside zone. Teams have moved so early this game. I mean, this is just caught between a rock and a very hard place with a timer that's gonna explode that rock and the hard place if you don't move fast enough.
Yeah, and don't forget that not only do you need to make it in the end game, they need eliminations. If you're behind, as long as the teams who are in that top 5 hold on and get the placement points, you don't gain anything on them. Like, yeah, that top 25 ticking over, that +5, it feels great. And you look over it and you're like, yeah, there's 24 teams left and we're the best. We got those points. Yeah, 5 points closer. But if the other team didn't drop, your net gain is 0. You have to make up ground on them. You have to pressure. You have to find them. And that's what we talk about, setting yourself up. And as we do, Scram actually getting the full confirm onto X Squeeze, which it doesn't really matter. They're at 164. They've confirmed themselves over. So no drama particularly going over there. You're probably wondering, why are you not watching the top teams? Well, we're watching the teams who are right on the barrier, the ones who are competing for that final top 5 spot, the ones who will make their way not only into the FNCS finals, but secure themselves a competition spot in that Grand Royale at the end of the year, which I know all of the EU players looked at the prize pool instantly and were like, yeah, I want to play in that.
I have a very good chance to today. Rifle 6th place so far. Always gotta give a little bit of a second for that surge counter to update. No panic right there. 97 though might cost for some, especially if you're still getting tagged. I want to jump on what you were talking about, Sundown, with the top 5, you know, still being alive, taking over those placement points, right? And if they're not going down, you're going to need to get even more eliminations. The big thing we've seen so far, at least 3 of these top 5 teams end up inside the top 5 or the top 10 every single game. With X Squeezed out, it's not a big deal for them, but it's very good for Metro, very good for Rifla, because now one of those teams is gone. They have a chance to be there. Even 3 of our VRs right now are inside the top 5. This top 5 is taking away so many points from the entire lobby. If they go down, it's good for everyone else right now. But if they stay in, they can just lock down their spots completely and bar everyone from qualifying.
I think one of the biggest things looking at the top 5 and looking at the statistics is just how well balanced the teams are in terms of their placement points and the eliminations. It's like you're not just going to get it done with one at this level. You need to have both. You need to be finding key elims, finding key refreshes. You need to be making it in the end games. And that's the type of Fortnite that these guys are used to playing and they're pushing for. And I think honestly, this feels like one of the more, at least from a playing perspective, in my personal sense, is like, I've loved playing competitive this season. I've loved watching it, the variety when it comes to rotation, the variety in the shotgun meta. I think it's been a nice little shift from what we've seen kind of the past couple seasons. And so far, Europe hasn't disappointed at all. It has just been nonstop, fantastic plays, some great clutches, some brilliant individual efforts, but also some great team execution when it comes to high ground, low ground stuff. Like, it's just been an absolute treat to be able to cast this region again.
They did a phenomenal job at it, let me just tell you that. And at the same time, it's so perfect that teams start to get villains in the lobby. Trios that they get clashed with again and again and again. And some games, one of those trios might not make it off spawn, so kind of the antagonists that you've been dealing with all day don't end up being on the same layers as you. Get a free game to play. We were just tuning in with QB Master, Ziny, and Fred, who were in 5th place. Xenolith has been a thorn in their side over and over again on all their layers. They got taken out earlier in the game off spawn. Around them now, this is danger zone. Lots of teams with Surge. They're actually inviting them into these boxes with traps. I'm not sure if that's the big play because those teams get very desperate. They might just pounce on it and send 3 players into 2. That could be disastrous. But as I was saying, these guys are free from pressure for a team that's just been hounding them. And this is the first game we get to see them just play with that freedom.
Arian Lee just got a confirm onto Aqua. I don't think that was his knock, but I saw the confirm come through in that seed. You still see we have Storm Surge turning off, Vidil picking up elims over on that side, but potentially a refresh from Micho and Co over on that side, which not getting uncontested, or I don't want to say uncontested because they fought every single round over there, but not necessarily getting that entire beach after winning and or losing the fight. That refresh could be critical. But again, while 66 players are up, 26 trios, so plenty of duos, potentially a couple solos, just trying to hold on, and CRR is one of those. Over towards the side, Tayson and co. actually getting backed up. They're sitting on 4 eliminations, but Chapix, that's Mitro picking. All right, give me Mitro's point of view. I'm done. Give me Mitro and Arian Lee. Come on, let's follow the miracle run. Let's see what they got as Chapix gets picked up. That's Milan over there. They're over towards the north side of the zone. They're going to keep pushing this fight. Like we've talked about, then kind of hawking this, but top 25, so one more trio will need to drop. Man, they have done so much in a situation where they shouldn't be relevant to be able to pick it up. And yeah, they got a card this late in the zone. That's so good.
It's half HP. They choose to drop it and just go on foot so they can actually be active with the shots as they move. It's a launch pad. It's a trap. Do they have the beams? A couple, but no knocks just yet. There seems to be one player as well from that big slipstream tower that's inside the zone. The purple arrow might be going for a reboot right there. There's a van, but that might even be free elims from Mitro if they hear it and turn around. That would be huge. I resume he's still popping off in the feed, and this is a crazy rotation. I can feel the desperation, the survival, the tension of this trio as they move in, scavenging whatever they can side by side. I resume he's really popping. I want to make sure if he's kind of in the business right now. He's 24th for the moment, so anyone he takes out, he's just kind of interrupting completely. Hopefully it's not Mitro or Arian Lee Milan, because I'm all for this comeback.
Rifle did pick up an elim, which if that's the case and it was actually his point, 5th and 6th swapped. If that's the case, because we have not seen Ziny for Doxinko, so I'd love to check in with Rifle at some point. We can pop back over to Mitro and them. I thought they'd be, kind of smell a little bit of blood in the water, be like those old loot sharks of old. And right now, hey, 6th place, they're being put under pressure now. It looks like they've gotten some points, but that was only the +5 for the placement. So with no elim going through, if Rifle and co were the ones who got that knock, they currently are the owners of 5th and 6th. And for Doxy, Ziny need to be aware of that. They need to know the situation. It doesn't have to put pressure on them now, because elims will eventually come, but they have to know that they're underneath and they're no longer ahead. As we flip back on over, you can see Tayson, Chapix, and Reason. Oh no, this is not going to work, because you still have to have a clean line of sight in order to take it all the way up. It's just going to get stuck in trying to get the angle. This is painful.
Yeah, so isn't it close and personal with it? Because that's a lot of builds. Actually, not the mini falls down. Not the mini. Reason's going for it. Okay, it's not that big of a hit on HP. It should equalize with the shields there, but now you can see the pressure really down onto Fred. Might not be Xenolith, but they have to take over another trio right here and right now. It'll be Hell and Scram, who we know can drag on a fight for 3 different zones, but Ziny might just stop it with the spray of his zone. He's still pushing forward for this, and they all go down simultaneously at the same time. Ziny, Fred, and QB Master lost 5th place, but grab it right back.
Yoink, they say. Give me them points. And that was all on Master. 2 knocks back to back real quick. Then Ziny getting the angle to be able to clean it up. They're going to feel fantastic. Like we said, keep an eye on the 5th and 6th. We'd love to check in with Rifle and Co. when we get an opportunity there to see what their point total is at. But we know, Milan just took all of his points. They were able to pick up another elimination, but he cannot take any more damage. As soon as that shield crack ends up going through, his teammates posted up and immediately began exchanging fire. Cammy took down Ferdoxy. Ferdoxy is down. Ferdoxy is down. That is our 5th place team currently are down a member. They will still have 2 more up, but it is a late game. There is nothing more. Zinni is pinned. Strokey is on the opposite side of him for Strokey. Trying to play spoiler. He's the monkey wrench on the side. Ziny is just getting shots rained down, but Master picks up another elimination. He says, team, follow me to the promised land. Follow me into the cascading points. Ziny gets a disengage. He's the number shot. Master is down. Ziny 6 HP in a dream, but the dream is shattered. It's over. 134. That's not going to be enough. They're going to hold on. They're going to hope and they're going to pray, but they're going to need to say a whole bunch of Hail Marys. Send one to whoever, because they're going to need a bunch.
Past Tayson all the way at the very end. I think they actually tied for 134 in total. Reason's still alive, so there could be a little bit that he can save. Placement does come through. I think those 5 points came in at the very end as well. Rifle at 130. He's 2 elims to equalize and pass by. Oh man, this is close on all accounts. Mitro, Milan, and Arian Lee, the line they also had to get into zone. Yes, Milan took a lot of damage, but they skipped 7 fights. Got underneath Thomas HD, moved through a valley, and only got stopped when Milan got beamed. So they're gonna be on the right side of the zone right now. Those yellow arrows you see next to the blues. Everyone's already in, and they have an entire traffic jam to cross. Rifle might just go straight through the middle. He'll be the only trio moving that way, and now they're sky high and free. Nothing's kind of blocking them, but they get right beside the mountain. It's just damage on the Kinzel. What a beautiful rotation all the way in. You should build up one more layer higher, maybe to block a little bit more of lines of sights, but no. He decides to keep it very frugal with the builds, just builds out a little bit. Good from Kinzel. This team stabilizes.
I just despise the fact that they could have walked and done the exact same rotation and it would have been more efficient. They didn't peek out. They did the safe thing. I think a low pad would have been a little bit better there, but at the end of the day, it only really cost them a big pot. However, it doesn't look like they have that big pot to spare, which when you're right on that borderline and you need 5 points to take it over, that's going to be huge. And Arian Lee just dropped Cammy, but it's going to be at the cost of Milan. Mitro down to just 50 HP. He has the minis. He has the medkit. Wall gets taken instantly, replaces as well. Good job covering out. They're into the cascading placement points. Arian Lee doubles up with him. He's going to drop down an extra medkit. Mitro, however, already sitting on 2. He's going to drop him 2 launch pads as well. Razumi ends up getting taken down, and we're in to the moving zones. 10 more seconds. 15 trios remain. 1 match separates it. Top 5 still up for grabs. Realistically, 1 or 2 spots that can still be yoinked away, as we've seen our 5th place team drop and everyone else still up on their feet. First place is more than secure.
There's going to be tension for Mitro and Arian Lee. Milan's got them here. These big rocket thrusters from the early game all the way till now. The car driving, the slick rotations. But it's up to their aggression. Get him across the finish line. Hen picking up Vettel. Huge for him on the comeback as well. 14 different teams. And about 9 of them have a chance to hit that 5th place slot. Let's see what these guys can do. 5 eliminations right now. No, 4 eliminations right now. The 5th one will come in very soon. And this is the first time they're not going to be at the very front of zone as they move. A big shot that does connect.
He got it.
And Arian Lee finds the tag. Is that a full elimination though? No, not yet. They also take their own pad, it looks like. Move forward. It's all about where they land.
Yeah, taking a look up on the high ground. Well, it doesn't matter. They're in 3rd place anyway. The placement points should be able to push them through. But the execution from Anas, Thomas, and Queasy, I mean, they've looked so good being able to take out the high ground, and the fact that Aqua has fallen relatively early on the back half of these games. Rifle gets a little bit of BL on BL action there, taking out Seti and pushing himself further into that 5th place spot. We said 134. Well, they got it there. They're tied up. It comes down, though, to the tiebreakers, which would end up being the average elims and average placements, which means you don't want to leave it to that. You want to at least outlast one more trio and make somebody else make the play. Take care of your business, which is the only thing they're thinking of right now. And they get a nice little launch pad if they want to recycle there, but with where the zone and the builds above them are, it's not necessarily efficient. Meanwhile, Hen going on a rampage, but coming in the game with just 77 points. It might be a story of too little, too late in a battle for placement points there. As the observers give us a nice little wide shot, you see Mitro back up. He's on the middle in that scrum there on the bottom side. Him and Arian Lee are hip to hip as Hen picks up what I think is his 4th elim there onto his X. We hop back on board with our current tied 5th place tiebreakers in play. 135, it comes through.
They're now inside the lead, holding on to 5th for the moment. Mitro's actually taken down, and Dredda in the feed though, as he's moving in, trying to catch up with the elims. All Rifle has to do with Jerky and Kinzel is survive. 136, the placement finally reining in. Everyone cannot handle the pressure. They're getting squeezed. Rifle though chooses to go all the way down to low. Flames actually lands there first. Hen, Trulix, and Rush Guard at the front of the zone, all alive as a full trio. Mitro and Arian Lee above them. In a mid-ground layer, there's about 5 teams below them and at least 3 above them right now. But in their vicinity, on their actual tarp layer, there's no one. They have a chance to breathe. Using the materials, they have a launch pad as well to take all the way up the height slowly. Takes down Ref's Guard. This is stress. They need so many more elims, and there's so much time to get them to. The 25 players still alive. That golden charge from Arian Lee will pack a punch. Mitro also has the pump available to use. Squeezy and Austin Thomas HD are going to be the first line of pressure. They might be chopped down.
Yes, they go. Etsy and Slovak. Don't forget, they also came in with 99 points, 116. But right now, it's going to be about the victory royales. But Jerky, he says, I'm shutting the door on the dream. Arian Lee gets taken down, and Anas takes down Mitro, and it was too little, too late. Despite breaking the record, the 60-point game, they'll fall just short. Kazeko, Etsy, and Slove, they need the victory royale, and they need all the elims, and they need it now. 105 attacks in the zone. He has the cabbage, is going to pop the flop as well. Tries to find a little bit of an angle towards the outside, sprays in, finds some wood, finds some shots, 30, 30, 30, finds the tags, but not quite enough, and no elims coming through. They will be able to get the confirm there, and they push up to 130. It's getting close, Shio. If they can get the victory royale, there's plenty of elims on the table. I don't see Rifle or any of his trio up. That's who we need to watch. Give me Zeko, give me Etsy, give me Slove as they play for their qualification life. The victory royale should do it if they can get enough, but the question is, can they get it, Shio?
They'll have to take down Titans who've held on height the whole game, the whole day. Thomas HD with another elimination. I think Q-Roll standing in between them right now, but this will definitely go down to a 3v3. Psycho, no mats, just shots, and boom, a big 70. Another one as one person goes down in the feed. Cabbages, text on the other side. The charge pump lands for 97. On the left. Psycho's doing it. 2 players down. It looks like it's gonna be a 1v1 up top. There's one thing just held up by a ramp. He's going for the shoot down. Will it hit? The harpoon, 2 seconds. The Cabbages had more time. Psycho's eating for his life, and he wins the game. 143 points. The shots, the clutch, they're unstoppable.
They needed the W. They needed every elim possible. A little bit of misplay there going with the siphon, but it didn't matter. He ate enough cabbages. What about my cabbages? He ate all of them there and rode it to a victory royale. But the question is, Shio, 143, the VR and the eliminations, did it push them into the top 5? Was it enough?
Yep.
Zeke's just nodding away. Zeke's just nodding away in this.
You just know. You
Zeke's
can't
just nodding away at it.
You just can't
I don't
believe
know. I it's just crazy, man. I feel like every FNCS is like this. I believe, I know it's coming. I'm like, I've seen it all at this point, man. I've been around the competitive scene for like 3 years now, going on 4, whatever. And then stuff like this just happens and it blows my mind. I'm just in shock and awe right now, boys.
Yeah, you sort of want it to happen, and of course it's exciting to watch, but you're sitting there on the edge of your seat, your heart can't take it, your heart starts skipping a couple beats, and you're thinking, oh my goodness, he's gonna do it. You're seeing the misplay of the siphon like Sundown, so you're thinking, oh no, hopefully it doesn't cost them, because if it does, that's so heartbreaking. But they did it. Well, we think they did it, right? We think they did it at the very least. Look, that was a brilliant finish and a brilliant, sort of end to what was 6 brilliant games. And hopefully we just get more of that in core too.
I hope so. I really do. From Zico's team in particular, like I said, like that pop-off, I hope it quals them, let's be real. From a victory royale in that final game, managing to make their way up. But look, here is ready.
That's right. Reese, let's do this, boy. Let's see which top 5 teams are making it through qualifier 1. Was the effort enough? It was.
Wow.
ZQ, they're literally getting themselves the victory royale in that final game. How many times do we see stuff like this happen, Levin? It literally happens like this every single qualifier.
Zeku's on fire. Whole lobby is terrified. Zeku's on fire. Hey. Nah. Look, 5th place, that's what you like, man. Just literally just able to, just being able to clutch up like that in the final game to secure your spot in the grand finals. That's what we all want. We all want to compete in the finals, right? And to do that now, they will be so chuffed. They will go to bed ecstatic and deserved, because that was a brilliant performance.
That was brilliant, but look, we have to talk about one thing and one thing only here. Zeko's team, that victory royale tied them 5th. So they tied, and it was Tastin's team, Chapek's team, and Reason that got knocked out. But both teams had a victory royale, but there was just more eliminations from Zico's team. So the few eliminations that they got more pushed them over Tastin and pushed Tastin's out of the qualification. It literally came down to every single elimination and that final victory royale for Zico to qual, and they did it.
Yeah, we can't skip over, right? Although that finish is crazy, and the fact that they had to win to actually hit the tiebreaker is crazy. We can't skip over some of the brilliant performances we've seen from some of our teams today. We hyped up, a lot of these teams are actually in that top 5. We hyped them up incredibly, right? We hyped up Queasy and Nas and Thomas. Of course, they come out and win the whole thing. Big up to Shia Wager. He foresaw it. It was written in the stars. Shia Wager's dreams. And the Lex Forzi on the Squeeze, of course, as well. Alela Blue, you know, we can talk them up. And Mr. Savage and Benji. Thank the Lord that we will actually certainly see this trio in the finals as well, because we've picked up how great this dynamic is between them and how it looks like it works perfectly. And now we're going to see that come into fruition in the finals. And of course, Rifler, Kinzo, and Drugi, somewhat of an outsider, but a lot of teams and a lot of people did expect them to do quite well today, and they have.
Yeah, that is right. Oh my gosh, I just can't even believe. So this is what, in case you guys didn't quite understand what we were kind of breaking down not that long ago, look at your 5th place, look at your 6th place, okay? Top 5 are the ones that go through. This last game, okay? The first 5 games, ZQ, SD, Slove, they were like, okay, going into game 6, we are outside of that qualification range. We literally need to win the game if we want to make one of those top 5 spots. At that point, they go to a tiebreaker with Tayson, Chapix, and Reason. Then it goes, how many victory royales do both teams? Both had a victory royale. Then it goes down, how many eliminations did both teams have? Well, for Tayson, Chapix, and Reason, they had 3 less total eliminations, which means ZQ and company slide right in and are making it into that top 5. Absolutely insane. You know, Levin Reese, I gotta say, one of the biggest question marks I had, especially at the top of the day, was like, how is this going to feel in general, right? We're seeing the change-ups for all these trios happening. But this is a breath of fresh air, man. I'm not going to lie. The action has been insane. And at this point, I don't even know who I want to root for, because like I feel like there's so many incredible trios, some that are still together, some that are completely new, that I'm like, I just want everyone to win.
I mean, you just got to go for your favorite players almost at that point, right? These are newly formed teams. You got to think which ones performed. And for me, Queasy, Anas, and Thomas HD looked so good at the start of the season when it came into scrims, just the way that they were playing all the way throughout. And obviously they performed super well, winning a cash cup and now winning the first week of the qualifiers. Like, I hope this team doesn't slow down, because often we see teams who do really well at the start of the season not perform as such when it comes to the finals. But maybe because it's such a short FNCS, that curse will be broken.
It's just good to see those guys back in the finals, right? We didn't get to see Anas and Thomas in the finals last season. This time we do. Aquasia and Strokey still going to be looking for their path to the finals. Definitely in process in that second game. And most of the day, we saw them look to do what, you know, they typically will do with a team that is led by Aqua. It just didn't pan out the way they would have wanted to. But nevertheless, I was very much impressed to see these guys back into the fray.
Yeah, it didn't end up playing out so well for them overall, but at the end of the day, you know what, big victory royale, they'll come back strong next week. We saw obviously a little bit of the end of the victory royale there from Verdox's team, who ended up kind of choking a little bit in that final game, just going down to 7th, but still super well played from them. And then look, X2's 4ZR and the Lex, one of the stars of the show today. And let's be real, like, the first 5 games from them were absolutely incredible. That was, at that point, the best average placement in EU qualification history. And unfortunately, they kind of lost that in the final match, but they played so good.
Yeah, and I was going to say brilliant stuff, but they weren't the winners of that game. It was
they weren't, you're right.
and Mr. Savage that won out that game in spectacular fashion. Of course, we know we will see that team in the finals. A team that we won't be seeing in the finals just yet, at the very least. Tayson, Chapix, and Reason. They won the game 4, and it was spectacular, and it was great to see them do this sort of comeback thing. I was rooting for them all day long. It just didn't pan out. They lost on the tiebreaker, heartbreaking stuff. They will be frustrated with themselves. They definitely will, but they bounced back. That's what it's all about. And to be fair, they're sitting top of the series point leaderboard. There is no better position to be in, outside of obviously getting top 5, but there is no better position to be in than the one they are in now.
Yeah, it's not what they want to be, let's be real, at the same time. But going from this, oh my, you know, let's be real. I just want to let the gameplay talk about this. We saw, obviously, like, Hen's team didn't manage to make it in, but they've got a highlight play already. The movement from Hydro was fantastic, and at the same time, Hen's movement was even better to pick up the victory royale from the low ground in game number 5. He's posted it on Twitter, and for good reason. It was such a highlight play for them.
And then the clutch, the thing of dreams. You know, as a Fortnite player, this is all you want, right? This is what you dream about on the grand stage in front of everybody with Shia Wager and Sundown casting all your action. For Zeku to win this clutch out, the cabbages that saved the day, and to do it against a team that won the tournament on the day. You know, I went into this one Reese saying you have to do the spectacular. They did the spectacular, and they've earned their spot in the finals as well. So brilliant stuff all around.
I also like, you remember, Levin, 2 seasons ago when I was talking about Zico's team and how good they were catty corner, and you're sitting at, I remember one point between games, you're going, man, this guy won't shut up about Zico's team. And I'm telling you, Zico is an amazing player. Obviously, I'm not trying to talk down the rest of his teammates at the same time. I'm just highlighting a single one. Amazing player, amazing team, pops off in the final game, hits the qualification. You'd love to see it.
Now I know why you wouldn't shut up about him.
I told you.
Well, now every viewer around the world is privy to what Reese was talking about. This is why he's one of the greatest minds. You put both of these two together, and that's it. We are able to see the future. Not me specifically, just these two. Fortnite fam, that concludes the action here at qualifier number 1 as far as Europe is concerned. Don't forget, you want more Fortnite action? We've got NA East. Reese and I are going to go jump on the battle bus. We're going to go over there. Later on in the day, we have NA West. Sundown will be back over there as well. So still plenty more Fortnite action in case you want to catch more. As always, please give these two a follow. Please give Sundown and Shio Wager a follow as well. All these guys make this show what it is. We can't be done without them. So with that being said, thank you guys so much. We're going to go jump on the battle bus right now. So until next time, we love you, and we'll see you on that battle bus.
First beep beep of the season. Woo!